With the blowers going on, it's hard to hear.
Yeah.
And there's all like warbles and stuff.
How's Shaw doing? Yeah,
Anxious.
I know he is.
Very anxious.
He was the one I was most worried about.
He is settling in more, which means, did I tell you about Jaeger, the Black Russian?
I think so. I don't remember a whole lot though.
Just, I would figure that.
Yeah.
So he gets the rundown too. So Shaw's anxious, right?
Always, yes.
And just so you know, sir, I'm recording the session here, okay?
Yep.
So don't try to beat me up. So Shaw has been the most anxious out of all of them.
Yeah.
They're all stressed, okay? They're not eating much.
Okay.
I'm watching them, their behavior's normal, they're still drinking water,
Okay.
okay? Oh, and actually I wanted to send you a message. I noticed on Duncan, he's got like a lump here.
He's always had those.
Okay.
They said it was some sort of like lymphatic thing that didn't go away. Like
Okay,
they're
cool.
hard. I know about it though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it when I was looking at him the one day, I was like,
He's got
let's
a little,
check
like,
this.
yeah,
Yes,
a
one's
little-
really larger than
Yeah.
the other. Yeah, okay. So that's good. So for Shaw, in the beginning, a lot of shaking, standing. So we do a lot of duration work here
Yeah.
throughout the day. So going to the example I was going to give you, we had a Black Russian Terrier, 150-pound dog. Yeah, big boy.
The big boy.
Only a year old, used to doing whatever he wanted with the owner and stuff. And when we first started doing duration work with him, he wouldn't sit or lay down. He would literally stand for 2 hours, panting, right? Because he was so anxious and under stress. It was about a weekend before we started to see him kind of relax a bit more, start sitting down. And I remember when it happened, and when he actually laid down, it was like a big thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody was like, wow, like Jaeger finally laid down.
Yeah.
And the reasoning is, year-old dog, did whatever he wanted. Boot camp, completely new environment, being put under pressure. He was very protesty, barking and jumping, like, and he's intimidating. He's 150 pounds,
Yeah.
right? So he's like,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. And it was the owner struggled with that.
Yeah.
So we expected it. So what happens is the brain's so stuck on I do whatever I want that when you confront it, and it's like, well, now you have to like not move for X period of time, it causes anxiety. The anxiety or the mental state can override physical state. The best analogy that I can come up with so far, have come up with, is like, I remember like, I think I watched a movie where some guy like hopped up on cocaine, and it was like 48 days with no sleep because of the drugs. Physically he was exhausted, but mentally his brain, he wasn't processing because he was so hopped up on drugs. So as the drugs were off, crashed for hours, right? Same thing for the dog. When the brain is under too much stress, it will override physical, right? Adrenaline pumping, things like that. You know, so if we get in a fight, like I've been punched, like I don't feel anything, then after the fight, it's like, oh crap, my jaw hurts, right?
Yeah.
So, same thing for him. So eventually, the mental state becomes exhausting. A dog can only stay, like, it's like being angry. You can only be angry for so long before you just like, you let it go. And unless something re-triggers that anger or something like that, like you tend to be like over it, right? Same thing. But dogs can hold on to things for a while. So once the brain starts to go, this is exhausting, I can't do this anymore, the body starts to kick in and the brain goes, I have to lay down, I have to rest, blah, blah, blah. Eventually it was like another weekend, and then all of a sudden he would just go there, lay down, and just chill. He'd be relaxed. So it's the same thing that we're seeing with Shaw. So first few days he was, he still is, a lot of panting, a lot of salivating.
Yeah.
More standing than not, but he did lay down.
Okay. Yeah, I did see a picture of him.
Yeah.
Laying, yeah.
So he was laying still under stress,
Yeah.
right? The salivating has gone down a lot. He still does, but it, like before it was like a little puddle, and now it's just like drops, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just like, in order for a dog to overcome stress, you have to put them through stress, right? Same thing for people. So the stress of not being able to move and being put under pressure, like, it goes away. Right, he's not constantly being remote or anything like that. It shuts off, right? So at some point his brain's like, okay, like this happens, but it does go away.
Yeah.
And the more we're exposing him to it, the more he's able to overcome it, right? So ideally, by the end of the 4 weeks, like he goes to the placemat, he's just like Jaeger. He goes, he chills out. Not uncommon to see a little bit of anxiety because he is an anxious dog.
Yeah.
I can't make him anxious, but I can help him learn how to handle it
Better.
in a healthier way.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions so far?
No.
So with the e-collars, so I'll fill you in on this. I'm going to go over how this works don't worry if you forget everything, because obviously at some point you're not going to see them until the next week, whatever, right? So this is a miniaturized TENS unit. Have you ever had physical therapy or been to a chiropractor?
Yeah, no, I know the TENS unit is.
Okay, excellent. So this is just a miniaturized TENS unit, okay? So it's electric, but it's not electricity. It's not like a taser. It's not like a current running through your dog's body. It's all centralized, of course, to where the muscle is. There it is. So I have it placed on my muscle here. That's moving my whole thumb to give you an exaggerated visual, okay? So it's momentary. The reason why this is effective with training and why this is my preferred approach. One, if I have a dog that's scared of humans, this is non-confrontational. Dog doesn't know where it's coming from. If we have a dog that's fear aggressive, and even if the owner were to correct and yank the dog with the prong collar, what have you, since the dog is coming from fear, in their mind, it's a valid response. Imagine if you're scared, would you not be in self-defense mode, right?
Yeah.
Which is why in court, if someone were to kill somebody and then they investigate, they're like, this was self-defense, it's not considered a murder, right? Same thing for dogs, right? Like they're being self-defensive, they're acting out to protect their life. So when you correct them, it's not rational, right? They're like, don't you see I'm in fear of this person, this potential threat, right? This allows us to shut down the fear without the dog knowing where it's coming from, right? So I can rewire them essentially to not act out and actually accept the person. And then from there, use this to get the dog to actually move to the person. So it's like reverse psychology. You move away from the person you're scared of, collar goes off. You move in, collar goes away, right? So then the dog goes, oh, I didn't like you at first, but when I try to run away from you, when I try to attack you, this thing happens, but when I'm next to you being calm, nothing happens, right? So that's how we start to trick and manipulate them, which sounds terrible.
It's not.
No, it's
We
not.
both believe
Yeah.
only in collars, so.
Okay, excellent, right? So, what we've done with the boys is we've covered heel, auto sits, which I think Jack has a tendency of sitting back a little further, so we'll work on that so that he's more aligned. A lot of duration work with the place command, sits, and then we still have to cover the down, and then we've done short leash recall, okay, which is just the length of your standard leash. So if this were to be like private sessions, what it would look like is first we do obedience on a regular standard 4 to 6 foot leash, then we transfer to a long leash. I use a 30-foot leash, and I call it the long leash phase, where you're doing all the same stuff but with the long leash. So if the dog tries to take off, no big deal. I have the other end of the leash, but the dog thinks that they can get away. Then I go to long leash dragging, and then I go to no leash enclosed area, and then it's off leash, okay? So there's stages to this. So this first stage is all short leash stuff. And then starting Tuesday, a week from when they started, we're gonna start going into the long leash stuff, okay? So with this tool, there's a few things that what we wanna be aware of. A dog's first instinct when they feel remote is to run away, okay? So we definitely don't want that happening, right? So this is why when people try to do this on their own, they're thinking this is a punisher. Whenever we bring in aversives, everybody thinks you use it to punish the dog. I look at this as a communicator or a motivator, okay? When we layer this in, we start low, we work our way up, okay? If I want the dog, for instance, to go to a bed, I give them a little bit of direction with the leash, and I start off low on here, and I gradually increase the pressure until the dog goes, okay, this isn't going away, and it's getting more intense. What happens if I just go over here? They hop on the bed, it disappears, okay? They try to step off, it kicks in again, they step back on, it goes away. And the dog goes, oh, every time I step on this thing, or when I feel this and I step on this, it goes away. And we're conditioning, if I try to step off, it automatically kicks in, right? So we don't say no, we don't say stop, we don't say the command again. We simply kick in with the aversive, okay? Most people tend to want to give the dogs opportunities to avoid remote collar. I use every opportunity to use remote collar. This is why I don't have to use it that much in the long run, okay? So most people sit, vibrate, remote, right? So now you're creating a 6-7 second delay, right? Before the dog goes, oh, you're gonna do this, I know the pattern, before the remote kicks in.
I still have time,
Exactly, right? But if I just give the cue and kick in with the remote, always, the dog thinks, well, the only way to beat the punch is to move that quick. So if I say it, boop, down, boop, place, boop, right? It's very quick. So it doesn't give the brain the opportunity to delay, okay? So if we apply this to recall, probably like the most important command the dog will know. They're chasing a rabbit. I don't care. They're a dog. I call them, but there's a delay, 2 to 3 second delay. It allows the brain to continue the pursuit of the rabbit and forget about the call, right? Next you know, the dog's gone, you're in the street, blah, blah, blah. But if I have an instantaneous response, dog's chasing a rabbit, Jack come, boom. There is no chance for the dog to think otherwise. The other thing we work on is response time. So there's come, right, super fast, and then there's come and sure. I'm sauntering, I'm on my way, right? If a dog is sauntering on the return, and I know that they're capable of doing a full speed recall, right, at the moment, that slowness allows the dog to think like, but that chasing this girl is pretty fun. And next thing you know, they're going right back to what they're doing, right? That's why we always push for urgency and a quick response, okay? Because it just limits how much we have to use this in the future, okay? So I'm very generous with my remoting. When we shape the commands, we don't do any words in the beginning, okay? Because the dogs don't know what they mean. Dogs don't understand things, they associate things. When people say, oh, my dog knows sit. Now your dog doesn't know sit, they associate sit. They associate, when you say this word and they put their butt down, they get something, or this goes away, right? Understanding or knowing would be, by definition, when someone says sit, it means put your butt on some kind of surface, right? That's human stuff. So I know it sounds silly, but I'll go through this with everybody because it's the most common thinking, right? And we are dealing with animals. I know a lot of people look at their dogs as if they're humans. And in my opinion, like, we're not that different, other than we see past, present, future. We can imagine, and we have a very complex language. Otherwise, we're still driven by instinct and like primal things. But we also have like rationale. Dogs can rationalize to a degree, okay? But when it comes to like, oh, they had a potty mistake, and 2 hours later you catch it, like, bad dog, right?
No, they don't.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, like, they know, look
No,
at them,
they
they're
don't.
sad. Like, they're responding to your energy, they're not responding to the fact that they thought, like, oh crap, I shouldn't have done that 2 hours ago, okay? So, with this here, I'm gonna have you, you felt it?
I have,
I'll have you just go through it real quick, okay? So I'm gonna have you take those 2 probes, lightly put it on your palm there. There you go, and this is 16. You feel it? I'm gonna go to 25 to give you a context. 25. And relax. You feel anything?
Yep, yeah, I feel it.
You're fine?
Yep.
So, it's momentary. I have to take that back. There's no residual effects or what have you. And there's 2 sort of functions on this. We have nick and continuous, okay? Nick is momentary. So after that tap, it's done, right? Even if you hold it down, it's done. With continuous, as long as you hold that button down, the dog feels something until you release it, right? So even if you press it just real quick, it's still a smidgen longer than the actual nick function, okay? Questions so far?
Nope.
And you mostly just use the nick one, right? We were
Correct.
talking about that, yeah.
So continuous is like my emergency function. It's nothing good or bad. It's super rare when I'll get a dog that doesn't respond well to nick. They respond well to continuous. The concept is the same. Pressure on when we need something, pressure off once they comply. But when I do this, it's momentary pressure, right? But I'm still keeping it on. So the dog complies, and then I stop tapping. We're all done. With continuous, what trainers will do is they'll put it low, they'll just find a number that the dog feels, and they'll hold the button down until the dog fulfills the command. So it's technically the same theory. My only issue with it is I feel like the dog is so concerned with this continuous pressure, excuse me, that it doesn't allow them time to think in between. How do I shut this down? But with the momentary, it's kind of like, okay, this is bothering me. What do I do about it? Okay. In the times that I've used continuous myself, there was probably been 2 to 3 times. 2 were cases of aggression. 1 was a case of a dog trying to go run away. So I had a couple of dogs that were working on dog aggression. This is the highest powered collar. So I had 1 collar on my hip, maxed out, and And then I had another collar in my hand, which was the normal collar that I would use. And then when I saw the dog kick into aggression, there was no muzzle. I didn't have time to go, let me take my time and go up and find the number. It was, I need to stop you now.
Yeah.
In the other case, when the dog was running away, I think it was like a firework or something, the dog got spooked. The dog already knew recall. But in that moment, the dogs are thinking rationally. They're thinking every dog for themselves, right? They're in self-preservation mode. That I had to make them more scared of running away from me than it was about running away from the object. Because the firework was a sound. There was no physical connection. This is a physical connection, right? So I can override these things. And in case with clients, I remember I had one client whose dog was super reactive, and he didn't know there was like a dog playing across the street or something, and he just took off the porch. So he just jacked the collar and continues them, and he had jumped up, hit the ground, and turned right back. Another client was fireworks. Another client was just running towards, chasing a rabbit, running towards the street. All cases 127 continuous, big yelp, big jump, land, return. Okay. Other than that, we'll always be using the NIC function. Okay. Other questions? All right. I feel like this will go by pretty quick. So we have here a placemat. Okay. So this is what we've been using with the guys. So when we deal with behavior, we have preventative and interventive. Okay? That's how I like to look at them. Prevention gives you control before the problem actually happens. Intervention is the problem is happening. How do I stop it? And you want to be well versed in both. Preventative is your obedient stuff, right? So technically, if we put Shaw and Duncan on a placemat, right, in your home, and it's all been drilled out, they know it, they understand it, they respect it, and somebody rings the doorbell, right? So you do it at 5 and at 5:30 somebody rings the doorbell. The importance of the place would technically override the stress of who's behind the door. Typically, we wouldn't see barking, okay, but in the beginning it would not be kind of out of the ordinary because it's a different environment, it's for home. And we've had people come in and out of the back area there and they're fine. There was only one time, and it's always with my stepdad, when he walks, because he's tall, he's like 6'2", that he comes in and everybody starts barking, right? And there was another time, actually, my other trainer, Maddie, came, and she was like, hey guys, and the energy caught everybody off guard, right? But we were able to dial them down via the remote collar, and that was like intervention, right? So there's no right or wrong, it's just whatever works best for the person. This, when it comes to the front door, isn't my preferred approach. Okay, but it's an option. I have to get cough drops. So the reason why it's not my preferred approach is there's no communication. Excuse me.
What are you texting?
I'm trying to call, so I'm just assuming she called me, just was trying to make sure we were here.
That's what she does. It's just... Which is fine, like I donate money too, but I pick 2, they get monthly money, and that's all that I give. Because otherwise I'm just giving money all day.
Right.
I donate to the puppies, and I donate to the children. And that's all that I need.
Which puppies do you donate?
The puppies, the people that save all the golden retrievers overseas. They don't so much enjoy the people.
Yeah, we do.
I think biggest piece of this is for.
All right, I'm gonna talk to something. So, it's not my preferred approach because it's a physical control. Okay, so what this means is you have the mind and the body. most people focus on the body. So if a dog gets really excited and they're jumping, sit. But the brain is all over the place.
Right.
That sit means nothing. Or if the dog does sit,
Yeah.
right, and then it just jump out of it, right? So, when you control the mind, you control the body. But if you just control the body, the mind can override your obedience or any kind of rationale the dog might have. So, if I put the dogs in place, someone rings the doorbell, the brain can't help but kick into who's behind the door. Territorial mode. That's where we get reactivity, lunging, barking. If you have a friendly dog that loves people, how it usually looks is doorbell, bark, 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 bark. You open the door, bark, 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 oh, I love people. It literally just shifts gears, right? If we have a dog that's very territorial, suspicious, nervous, anxious, or fearful of people, same thing, doorbell, bark, 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 right? Underlying issues like anxiety get intertwined. Dog's now anxious, you open the door, who's this, right? Person comes in, who let this person in? And it sounds stupid, but your dog does not know that when you open the door and your guest steps in, that that's an invitation.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? They're just like, who the hell let in the threat?
Right.
So if they're anxious, they'll get stuck. And then they'll like move around a lot, they'll bark a lot, they'll like sniff and then move away, you know? They're stuck in suspicion because there's been no communication.
Yeah.
So if we take that dog and we tell them place, and they hop to place, the doorbell goes off. They kick it. The brain, the body is there, the brain is at the door. And then you open the door. One, the issue overrides the meaning of this, because the dog's like, screw your placemat, there's somebody intruding, right? Or you'll see them start barking, or
That's
you'll,
what Shaw does. I can get him to go sit down sometimes, but he just barks.
yeah, because his brain is stuck on the door, okay? So that's why it's not my preferred approach.
Yeah.
Now with a remote collar, you can make it happen, because we have a physical consequence. But with how dogs operate and communicate, that's where it falls short, okay? And there's no right or wrong here. I've had clients use this command, like especially with small dogs,
Yeah.
because the exercise that I teach, you're essentially confronting the dog and claiming the space, telling them essentially, this is my door, this is my guest, thanks for letting me know, but you need to calm down and back off.
That's exactly what needs to happen.
Right? So that's a totally different ballgame.
Yeah.
But for some clients, like, this does work. I get people that do that in conjunction with this, and I get people that just do the backing away, right? So there's like a number of things that we can do. So that's just like another tool in the toolbox, is how I look at it, right? And it's the same thing with training tools. Like, I love e-collar, so I train all my dogs on. But I know clicker, I know food, I know gentle leader, choke chain, prong collar, and e-collar, and like whatever in between.
Yeah.
Just more tools in my toolbox, right? So we're gonna cover this today. This is going to help you get used to just how the remote works. It's a simple exercise. It'll help show you the difference in the boys' personality types, the varying degrees of numbers, being sensitive to like, oh, you need 12, but you need 28, and why you need 28.
Yeah.
And it's once you get them home, this is something that we always stress to people now, okay? I'm training dogs to like this degree, so that when you get them, you may not need everything, but at least since they're trained to hear, when things start to like, I'm not saying fall short, but like not be applied, it's still there, okay? The reason why we push duration work is because a lot of people is like mi casa, su casa, right? They let their dogs have a free-for-all. And what happens with my first client this morning is they have 3 dogs. One of them is a Borbal, which is a huge 180-pound dog.
Okay.
Yeah, and then 2 pits.
Oh, okay.
They're about 45 to 60 pounds. They're fighting. Okay, and they thought it was the one dog because she's nervous, and I was like, no, it's actually the other dog because she's so happy-go-lucky. They see it as excitement and happy, and you know everything's great. but in their world, it's considered instability.
Yeah.
So then the nervous dog is correcting that dog to establish structure, but then the other dog is then jumping in the fray as like a means to like
Yeah, stop it.
Stop it.
Mhm.
Doesn't work really well when you
Yeah.
have 3 dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So with this, your dog becomes what you allow them to do. So if it's just free for all, your dog becomes that kind of personality.
Mhm.
Okay. If it's discipline, structure, calmness, your dog becomes a disciplined, calm, structured dog. So this is just a means of getting that down. So if you ever have guests come over, the function of this would be, well, if we don't want the dog like begging for food, jumping on people, maybe there's kids running around, you know, and Duncan's a big boy, he could knock someone down, right?
Yep, he has.
That's how Jack is too.
Yes, we can contain them. You lay there, you don't move, all this is gonna go on. I don't care if a parade of dog comes by, you're not gonna move. Okay, that's what we're building for. And you use it as you need it. Because the other approach, because remember prevention, intervention, right?
Mhm.
Doing that really doesn't teach the dogs how to coexist in a social setting,
Mhm.
right? So like let's say Duncan and Jack like to jump on people, right?
Mhm.
This prevents that from happening, preventative approach. But when you release him or them, what do you think they're gonna do?
They're gonna go jump.
They're gonna jump.
Mhm.
Intervention, we correct for the jumping. That teaches them how to actually interact and be within the social construct
Mhm.
and how to behave. Okay, so that's the difference between the like obedience and behavior aspect, okay? And you pick and choose. Or let's say you get somebody who's scared of dogs, which I've had happen with clients, is when they see you have control, it makes them feel more relaxed.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh wow, like I had there was a couple and the dad got bit by the dog. And he's like, I'm not ever coming over
Mhm.
until you get rid of the dog or you do something. They hired me. And I was like, yep, I've seen this before. There's mistrust or distrust. We're to focus on the dog, get all the control down. And then once your dog can lay down in that move for 2 to 3 hours, no matter what, you're gonna invite your dad over. They did just that, and the dad was like, holy crap, that dog's not moving. Dad was getting up, walking around, so comfortable. Because he's like, you have control.
Right.
Okay, so it helps in those cases as well if we ever have to fix any kind of relationships,
Yeah.
you know. And I've had dogs jump on kids, and the kids get scared of dogs,
Oh, yeah.
you know. So it can work a lot of ways. So we'll bring out Shaw. We'll work with them first.
Okay.
And if you have any questions in the meantime, you know, feel free to ask. Okay.
Okay.
So we'll go get
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
get him.
Dear Wonder Woman, I'm pretty sure that was Jack.
Understand all the structure, Dad, I don't like it.
Mom never made me straight.
I know. You have to make sure she doesn't ruin him again.
I just have to make sure I spend a lot of time at night and on the weekends doing stuff with him, so that.
Well, apparently he thinks one and done because now he thinks that you ride shotgun.
He never, ever
I know.
would go to the front of my car when I put him in there. I never, didn't usually give him the opportunity either way, but he never, he would just jump in there and kind of turn around away from me. One time,
Mhm.
better off that she doesn't come.
Jesse! Hi, puppy!
I'll let you say hi first before I. Okay.
Hi, puppy! Hi, good boy. You need to good?
See, they're not gone.
What's up here?
Oh, dear.
What's up here?
Yeah, I'll give you this for a second. While you get this
Where
situated.
you been for a
I
little?
know, I'm so jealous of you, huh? Are you being a boy?
And you taking care of Jack and Duncan too?
Like, not around here, I'm sorry.
Every dog
I'm
runs
too
up.
stressed. Oh, you being a good boy? No.
Alright, so I'll take you on that. We all got our fill?
Go do some stuff. Go do some
Yeah,
stuff.
I want to stuff.
This is my place.
Yeah.
Go here.
I didn't send them there, obviously he's gravitating to it because of all the stuff that we've done. Alright, so. So I keep things super simple, okay? So you can of course see the anxiety. Is we want to find our perception level, okay? Do you have an idea what that means?
When he starts to feel it.
Correct. Now I do a perception level different than most trainers do. Most trainers, they'll tap and the dog will do something super subtle, right? And they'll sniff the ground and stuff like that. That tells me that they feel it, okay? And then when we see the contraction, that tells you have connection. I want to see that plus a little more, okay? So I want to train urgency immediately, okay? Making it important from the get-go. If it's not important, they're not going to do it. It's worthless. So my theory is as low as possible, but as high as needed, okay? So depending on the situation, dog chasing a rabbit, running towards the street, 127 continuous, you're going to get your ass back here, right? So, but when we're teaching stuff, we always want to start low and just work our way up gradually. He tells me everything I need to know, okay? So I'm going to dip this down, and he's on the orange color. And we're going to be using the orange button here. We're on Nick. I'm at 5 at the moment, okay? And when you hear me saying tap, that's when I'm pressing the button. So if I say tap, 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 that's my rhythm. If I say tap, 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 that would be my rhythm. 5, tip, 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 tip. So you can see how he feels it, right? Did you see how subtle it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so I want a little more. A little 9, tip. All right. So 9, you see how big that response was. The other one was kind of like,
Something there, but yeah.
all right, wasn't too bad. But I don't have to be super high to get more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially for him.
Right. It's all according to the personality type.
Yeah.
Most people's mindset when they try to train their own dogs or they come to someone is, oh, you're just gonna say sit and jack it up and then make the dog sit and by yelping. I'm like, no, the dog learns nothing. You create more problems that way, right? So I want to teach them that they're technically in control of this. If I were to say place and he just shoots there, I don't press the button, right? That's how I think of it as a motivator. Is it becomes a punisher when you're giving the dog multiple times not to do it, and then you're using it as an end means of like, okay, I'm going to make you do it now, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to every time I say something, this will always happen, guaranteed, until you do it, right? So the dog just thinks, I better move quick,
Yeah.
okay? So it's all in how you apply it, and that subtle difference from waiting a few seconds to instant is how the dog perceives things, okay? So here, this is a stressor. It's an aversive. He's not gonna like this, right? It's like for me growing up, I got spanked, I didn't like it, but it was for my well-being. So when we deal with an anxious dog, or a fearful, nervous dog, people tend to stay away from stressors or using aversives because they don't want to make the dog more fearful, nervous, or anxious, which I get. However, it does not help the dog overcome their issues, okay? So when we do remote training, one of the most common questions I get when I work with a dog like Shaw here is, Jesse, are you making my dog more anxious? I go, no. Anxiety is a stress response. We're applying stress. Your dog is responding likewise through anxiety, right? So it looks as if the dog's more anxious because it's controlled context, okay? So the more we expose him to this over time, the more he just understands like, oh, this ain't too bad, it's just life. You know, like me growing up being spanked, I didn't like it, right? Or the thought or the threat of being spanked, I didn't like it. But you get over it. And I learned, oh, well, if I just don't do certain things, and if I just do my chores and do my homework, get good grades, don't talk back to my mom, I don't get spanked. Which, look at that, right? Same thing for the dog here, which is why I use every opportunity. Okay, so I don't threaten dogs in the sense of I don't say, don't make me remote you.
Right.
It's just remote.
Yeah.
Right? Make their lives easier, make your life easier, okay? Because we are humans, we get frustrated. You give the dog lots of opportunities because you're like, they should know better, they've been trained. But they're animals, and if they can get away with it, they will. So like for me, my mom said, Jesse, you can't watch TV, you're in trouble. I gotta leave, I gotta go get groceries, watch the kids, no one's home. Boop, hop on that TV, right? And I know better. So it's just opportunistic behavior, it's nothing good or bad, okay? So here, you can of course see Shaw's anxiety, the shaking, how he's holding himself, right? So this here has actually become more relaxed. The reason why he looks more stressed now is because now you're here.
Yeah.
He's not used to this in the presence of you,
Yeah.
okay? With us in our environment, he's like, oh, okay, like this is now the kind of new norm.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is not unusual, okay? Once you start to take them home and apply some at home, you're probably gonna see even more anxiety because they're used to being one way, right? They're used to the freedom. So then when you counter it, you're like, you're not gonna get that freedom anymore. The dog goes, what do you mean I'm not gonna get that freedom anymore, right? That's what it was, right? You're gonna get, or the dog's gonna show more signs of anxiety. It's normal in the beginning, okay? Questions so far?
Has you tried to nib at anybody? No?
Because we keep notes.
I was just worried that him going like in and out of like a cage with somebody else or something would trigger him. But he
Well, I
doesn't.
think as
he
long as
doesn't-
nobody's like grabbing at his feet or anything, I mean, his normal triggers, he doesn't just nip for the fun
No,
of
I
it.
know, I just thought that he would just be like in an anxious state.
Defensive?
Yeah. But he doesn't look as terrified as I thought he'd be.
No, because there's no connection
Yeah.
with this tool. It does happen where I work with the case that will become aggressive towards me. They're super rare, I get about maybe 2 to 3 a year, where they're completely friendly. Pet them, you know, they're having it. But the moment I put them under pressure, they try to come after me.
Yeah.
And then the owner's freaked out, like, did you make my dog aggressive or is my dog aggressive? And I go, no. I'm just some random guy,
Yeah.
walked into your house, slapped a leash on him, and is telling him what to do. I'm not asking him, I'm telling him. Dog goes, I don't know
Yeah,
you.
what is this?
I don't trust you, right? So they go into defense mode. I hand the dog to the owner. I tell him, you know, do this if this happens. I don't expect it, but we'll see. They work with the dog, nothing. And they go, why? I'm like, because the dog trusts you. The dog knows you, right? Just like with humans, like it wouldn't be wise to just trust anybody with like the keys to your car.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's got to be earned. For dogs, most dogs or most people's experiences with dogs, they just give the trust,
Yeah.
right? But in some cases, it doesn't work out that way. So I never take it personally. And in the back of my head, every time I work with a dog, I always anticipate maybe this happens, right? So we've not seen anything like that from him or any of the guys. I think actually, no, I think someone said something about Jack, but it was just resistance. Like it was nothing like, oh, this is concerning.
Yeah.
He would resist by trying to move away or shut down.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to do this, which is normal for his, personality type. Questions so far?
I think so.
So we're at 9.
Okay.
So the release word that we use is break. Okay, break means your job is done.
Yeah.
So when we kick in with a command, for example, place. Place is essentially clocking your dog in. Okay, so like right now, you know, you've paid us to train your dog and you paid for my time. I'm not on my phone texting friends or all that stuff, calling people, just having a casual conversation. I'm working right now. I'm clocked in. But the moment we're done, I'm free. I can call my friends, do whatever I want, right? Same thing for the dog. Once they're under command, sit down, place, come, heel, or stay. They're clocked in. Their job is to perform that command until they're given the release word. Okay? Once you've given the cue of break, break means you can pee, poop, roll around, sit the ground. You could keep laying there if you want. You're free to go. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and issue the word break. And a boy. When I do this stuff, I'm always either upbeat or indifferent. Okay? When we're applying aversives, people tend to feel bad, right? Either when they're putting on the collar or when they're using the tool itself. So if the dog looks at you and you're like, I know, buddy, I don't like this, right? That's what they associate. So when people say, oh, Jesse, my dog doesn't like the tools, I'm like, it's most likely because you don't like the tools. And I'm like, are you like coming in like, oh, I'm sorry, buddy, right? The dog goes, well, if you don't like it, then why should I like it, right? So by being indifferent or upbeat, he's just like, oh, okay, it's not too bad. Just, it is what it is, right? Of course, we're working at appropriate norms as well. So again, seeing it as a line of communication as opposed to a punisher, okay? The cue we give here, of course, is the word place. So I would say place, tap, 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 right there. Now, initially, when we layered this in, the dog doesn't know or understand this, right? He's associating that when this goes off, that going here turns it off. Is I try to refrain as much as possible from using the leash, okay? Because I want him to associate place means go here. Most trainers or people, when they do this, will physically walk with their dog all the way here. Okay, they'll yank him or pull him on.
Right.
They'll go good, they'll give him a treat. Or they'll do the same thing with remote, but they're just doing all this work. When I teach place, I'm right here. I give the cue, start remoting, a little bit of pressure, and make the dog go. So we're already training them to be off leash now. Okay, the more we use this tool, here, I've been on this my balance and drop the leash. The more we use this, the more this becomes a part of the command, right? He's like, every time you say place, I feel this leash and it's pulling me and it leads me right here, right? And then when I say place and I don't have a leash, the dog goes, what? What's that? Right? There's all this other stuff. Because dogs are very much picture-based. So for them, if it's always, we're walking side by side and I'm putting pressure until they get there, that becomes a part of the command. And I want to disassociate myself from the command in the sense of body language with things like this. So he really associates place means go here no matter where I am. You know, if you're in the kitchen place, technically they should run over and find a placemat. Using same positioning doesn't matter because they're recognizing the object itself.
So it doesn't matter if they sit or lay down as long as they're in that
Correct.
spot, that's all that matters.
This is the most lenient command, okay? And this is like a family favorite because if you down shaw, which is this, right? That would be down. Let's say, what's something that Shaw really loves?
Besides me?
Huh?
Bones, like rawhide bones.
Does he get jumpy, like excited for it?
Not really.
Okay.
He doesn't really get a whole lot of excitement. He likes to go swimming.
Okay, let's use you.
Okay.
Okay, let's say your dad has Shaw
Mhm.
and he downs him,
Mhm.
and then you walk into the room.
Mhm.
I haven't seen mom all day, right?
Mhm.
It's harder to correct because it has to go into exact positioning.
Mhm.
If he were on place and you walked in and he stood up and he started shaking, it's easier
Yeah.
because he's still within the area.
Yeah, he's still in this place. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So he can sit, lay down, or stand up. I personally don't care, but there's still the mental aspect of it. So earlier when I worked with, the dog's name is Rue, because she jumps like a kangaroo on the leash, okay? So that just give you an idea of the dog, right? We taught her place today, and she would hop on and hop off, and just kept moving. So eventually she learned, okay, when I hop on here, and everything goes away, when I hop off, it kicks back in again. So I'm gonna stay within the area. Is anytime anybody move, she would just be like this, right? So to show the owners, I said, keep tapping. And the dog was one place. So technically, there's nothing to tap obedience-wise, but there was something to tap behavior-wise. And I kept telling her tapping. It took like 2 to 3 minutes. And the dog finally sat down, and then a moment later, laid down. And I go, do you know what you just did? They're like, no, I felt bad too. And I was like, she's like, my dog didn't know what to do. I'm like, true. And I wish there was a better way, but this is how dogs learn. We sat through the place and we wanted more. We wanted go to place and relax, right? If the other dog that we did would hop on it, just sit there and like lay down automatically. She just went to a resting state herself, right? In some cases, you may have to push it yourself. So let's say you take Shaw home, he's anxious, you place him, he's standing there, right? I may have you push for more, right? Finish it. I don't need, obviously here, still anxious, right?
Yeah.
But much more relaxed state,
Yeah.
okay?
It's
Because we
not
should
standing
have
into
worked all of that, exactly. So, once you start to work with them in the home and really start to see the nuances of this, the more you understand this, the better communication you're gonna have with your dog. And a lot of it's really just nonverbal stuff, okay? So, aversives are great for teaching dogs not to do something again. Jumping, oh, I don't like this. What happens when I stop jumping? Oh, it went away. Counter surfing, barking, chewing on things, licking, blah, 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 blah. Like all those things, it's just aversive, right? But when it comes to teaching something with an aversive, there has to be directional pressure, okay? So in the beginning, when I sit down here, I'd cue the word place. We'd start tapping, adjusting our number until we found a number that was concerning for Shaw, enough for him to think I need to find the answer, with a little bit of leash pressure, and then eventually once I hit that right number, he's like, I gotta do something about this, it's not getting better. He gets up, he hops into place, it goes away, he goes, oh, I see. But he needed directional pressure, right? It would be unfair for me to just start remoting him and expect him to just figure out, go here, or figure out to put his butt down, or lay down, right? We have to shape all those things using directional pressure, but just enough that it gives the dog the idea, this makes the dog actually perform the act itself, okay? So, break. When we're pushing for off-leash stuff, sorry about it. Let's see. Is it?
Yeah.
Good. The answer yet, bud.
There you go.
It's always the answer.
I know. When in doubt, please.
Place.
So I want him to just get his mind off of this here, right? So he's not under any kind of heel, because I don't want him to think with anxious dogs they can get paranoid, and they'll just kind of go to the same answer all the time. Is I want to teach him like, no, but like sometimes we're gonna walk and like it's not gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
So
it's
like
not always the
exactly. So I'll meander, and if I see him trying to like move towards it, I just give him some directional attention. I'm not remoting him here, okay? Because if I did remote him, he would get confused.
Yeah.
Because he's thinking this means to go to place, and then I'm using it as a means of not to go to place. Now, as we progress, we can use it to teach him, you only go to place when I tell you. So if he tries to prematurely shoot, we use the remote to stop the behavior. But that's when he has a better association of what he's supposed to do, okay? So this is good. I'm going to take a pause here, see what his choice is. Right, good. Place, tip.
Good.
Very
This
good.
is better.
So when I cued the word, did you see how quick that turn was?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have, like I mentioned with the recall, the response time, and then the speed of like the performance. So once I said place, it was an immediate shift, and he just started moving. So he had a really instant response, and that's what I'm looking for, okay? The next thing would be if I was further away, and if I said place, he'd turn and just shot there, okay? In the beginning, when we're teaching things, we really don't care about that. But then after a couple of days, once I see the dog has a good association, I start to play with that number and go, okay, cool. Now we're gonna put a little bit more urgency behind it, okay? I'll wait till the night, break. Yeah, boy. Good. Thought about it for a second.
You're not ready. You're not.
Good.
Why aren't you saving
Yeah, I'm paying for this. This-
Place. Tip. 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 Good. Did you see what happened there? What was it?
Is he confused about whether or not he's gonna go walking again, or?
He hesitated for a second, right? Do you know why he hesitated?
'Cause he's anxious?
It's a good guess.
So you're trying not to get into place and there to go, and now he was going back this way?
A little bit of that.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when I cued the word, because we were further away, I could get taps in. Is as soon as he moved, a tap kicked in. Okay. Aversives are meant to stop things. Place, response, a tap. So then it creates confusion of maybe I'm not supposed to place, right? So super common. And I typically see this happen with recall. So when I work with my owners on recall stuff, I'll tell them, always tap when you call your dog. Always. I don't care if they turn super fast. Always do it. And they go, but Jessica, the dog's in. I'm like, I get it. Still do it. Because you're trying to force confusion. Call you, you respond. I tap too late, you run the other way. Dog's confused. So right now, he's on a leash, he's on a long leash. I'm going to take this time to kind of force these problems, these kinks, if you will. So where he felt the tap, so he heard place, he moved, tap, he moved back, tap again, tap. He figured it out, right? So he had a moment of hesitation, but once he kept feeling this, he goes, okay, back wasn't the answer. Moving forward still is the answer. Oh, yep, it went away as soon as I got there, okay? And these are things that I always expect to see when working with everybody. And I don't like if I don't see it when I work with the dog personally. Because in my head, I'm like, what if?
Yeah.
Right? So I always like to force the issues. And this is one way that we do it. This is also why I always put remote behind everything that I say, because I want stuff like that to happen. So once he's off leash, I go, no big deal. We've already worked through it 100 times with the leash on, that it shouldn't be a problem. Okay? Break. I know, but. Good. Place. Tip. Tip. Good. Good. Questions so far? Here we go. Are you gonna be working with these guys too? Like after?
I mean, we could see how it goes. I don't have to, but if you think it would help, I would.
Sure. I mean, some hands-on experience wouldn't hurt. And then if you ever had some care field or anything like that.
Yeah, we watch them all the time, so
it's the same stuff, different personality types. Yeah.
Just so you hear a different voice, probably.
Questions before you get started? Okay. So you're going to cue the word break. Okay. Now, when you're moving around, there's a couple things that I'm doing. One is I like to add in gaps. Okay. So, like, let's say it's no place. Shaw runs there. I'm walking around. And a lot of people will just walk and go break as they're walking. I don't want to do that. Okay? Because your dog's going to anticipate. And they're going to see you moving. They're going to think at some point you're going to just release them. So then you'll see them prematurely break. So what I do is I like to move around, change directions, change speeds, blah, blah, blah. And now stand on the opposite side for a second.
And then
Break.
Right.
Yeah, and then release, right? And you want to vary that time as well. Dogs don't have a sense of time, and they do have a sense of time. So like, it's kind of like a body clock, you know, where you stop, and if you always wait 5 seconds, you'll see at the 5 second mark.
Yeah, it's ready.
They're ready to go, right? So I always change that up. If you see them prematurely break, as you're saying break, right? Because it may happen, I just leave it, okay? We want to get kind of savvy on what's the cue. Because sometimes as you're moving around, you'll see the dog kind of like fidget, and I'm like, they're being impulsive already, that they may tap, 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 that they may break prematurely, okay? Here, Shaw starts to speak. I'm gonna be next to Mom. Go ahead and take a step back, actually. There you go. I wanna be next to Mom. And with no words, with just the remote, you tap like 2 to 3 times, and stop the action,
And you go back.
foot, back on, right? So there's no words needed. It's all associated to the remote. So here, it's kind of like he's learning, if I hear this cue, I run here, I can stop the remote, and if I jump off prematurely, it automatically, like the floor lights up. right?
Yeah.
Until I run back to the spot itself. We tend to be very verbal. No, stop, right? The reason why I leave that out of this is technically for a dog, if you give a cue before the aversive, they can technically do it until you give the cue, okay? So if he's on place, he goes to sneak off, and you say, and then you remote him. He thinks, all right, well, next time when you're not looking, I'm gonna sneak off, I'm gonna be over here, right? Whereas I want him to think, if I'm here, and even, yeah, exactly, don't move, okay? So when you remove words, like you say more by saying less, essentially. Okay, so all that was good. Dad gave a heads up. You tap 2 or 3 times. He pops back. You were super indifferent, and he goes, "Oh, okay." It means not to move, right? I don't say stay either. It's implied. The way we imply it is simply by doing what we're doing right now, right? I said place. We shifted handlers. Which would throw him off. I was expecting that he was going to be more like, hey, and like jump off and stuff. But he didn't. He held really well. And then he had a little mistake. We tap and he hops back on. So that creates the implied stay. Most people tend to repeat. When you repeat, you reset. Okay? So if I say place and he goes there and he gets off and he goes, no, place, it's a whole new command. Okay? You just remote and you make it place, don't move, period. Okay? So like for humans, you don't want to get a ticket, don't run red lights. Right? Pay for your parking. Don't speed. Right? We know you don't do those things, you don't get consequences. Right? Same thing for the dog. I tell you this, you don't do anything, no consequences. You do something, consequences, no warning. Right? That teaches them to self-regulate. And you'll literally see when a dog is thinking about doing something and then they opt not to. They're like, nah, I'm not going to do it because I know that it's going to come in. Right? So once I see that, I'm like, great. When it comes to praise, like earlier I was like, good, attaboy, right? But I wasn't getting too overly enthusiastic about it, okay? I'm a neutral. So since he's under stress and he's becoming anxious, I want to be like his, his column, if you will, like his anchor, which sounds kind of like cliche, but that's what helps dogs like him. When we're applying these aversives, I'm holding him to a standard. And I'm saying, I'm going to have you do this because I know you can do this. And he goes, but I'm so anxious and I don't want to move around. Like, what do you mean I got to do this, right? And he tries to sneak off, and I, hold him to that standard. And I'm giving him the same consequence appropriate to him that I would give to any other dog. I'm not babying him. Dogs don't baby each other. If he was a soft personality and he did something out of hand, and another dog was like, no, that's not going to happen, they would just bite. Right? They would just bite him like any other dog. They don't have any pity or like sympathy, right? So this is actually what toughens him up. Okay? Because I'm treating him, it's like a handicapped person. I remember there was someone, they were in a wheelchair. I was like, oh, I'll open the door for you. And he's like, I can do it. And at first, I was like, dude, you're an asshole. But then I walked away and I thought about it. And I was like, I saw this person who's handicapped. And he could do it. And he didn't want that thought process of like, oh, I'm handicapped, I need help, right? And I was like, that's the same thing that we're seeing here, right? I deal with a lot of shutdown dogs, a lot of fearful dogs, dogs that have no confidence, abuse and stuff, none of that matters. I always tell people when I come in, just treat them like a dog. And then they open up more because I didn't baby them. Babying increases more anxiety. Babying makes you softer. When you're strict and you're super black and white, okay, they see you as an authority, okay? So the division is 80% followers to 20% leaders, okay? In the animal world and the human world. Because if everybody was a leader, everybody would be fighting, right? That's what helps create harmony, right? So, the way, I guess whenever Cesar Milan, have I talked about this? Are you for Cesar? Okay. So he talks about the pack leader mentality and all that stuff, right? The only issue I have with that theory is that people take it very concrete and they think, oh, dogs kind of elect this pack leader, and this pack leader is in charge of everything, kind of like you have a president, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to dominance, and I know science talks about, like, it's not, I just met with some other people and they're like, oh, we had a trainer and they said that science has debunked dominance myth. I'm like, nope, dominance is everywhere. It's the misconception of dominance. Dominance is happening now. Who's dominant energy right now?
Me.
You to Shaw.
Yeah.
And above that.
And does.
Yes. Because I have insight. I have an intelligence that you've hired me for. Right? What do you do, sir?
I'm a manager for a chemical company.
Okay. Let's say I had a chemical company and I need a manager. And I was interviewing you, right? And you were like, you knew your shit about chemical companies. You would come in like, yeah, there's no big deal. Like, you have this confidence, like, I need somebody like you to manage my company, right? It would put you in that moment, in that meeting, as dominant energy. Let's say an emergency broke out, firefighters come in. Now that dominance shifts. Now it's the firefighters, right? Same thing for the dogs. If we have 5 dogs, one could be dominant over the bed, one could be dominant over the food, the water, a toy, and you would see them, even though one is dominant over the bed, would submit to another over the food, and vice versa. Okay, so it's not concrete. Okay, the interesting thing about the human world is because we've created gray area, is if we take, for instance, I love people watching stuff on the internet, but like, let's say we take a bus driver. Okay, tip. A little bit of guidance, tip. Right there, good. Let's say, tip. I'm getting confused, tip. A little bit of leash pressure, tip. Good, relax. Tip. There. Okay. I want a little bit more than just the setback. Okay. If we take a bus driver, one would assume the bus driver is the authority in that setting. So if something goes down with the passengers, one would think bus driver would address it. But that's typically not how it works. If you watch something like that on the internet, when you get cases of something happening and no one doing anything about it, it's because most people were followers, right? But when you have a confident, dominant type energy, they confront it. Sometimes it's just one person, sometimes it's multiple people, right? It's the same thing here, okay? So by you instilling structure and consequences don't have to be harsh. That's the thing. Consequence just means if you do something I don't like, this deterrent is going to happen, appropriate to your behavior, your personality type, so on and so forth. Is that then the dog goes, oh, well, you're telling me to do this, you're making me do this, and you're also holding me to a standard for performing this. That's what creates or makes you an authority, okay? I know a lot of people think it's about feeding. They're like, oh, just start the dog. I'm like, the dog. The dog can run out the door, hunt down a squirrel, and eat. They don't need us to feed them, right? Or they'll say, like, don't let your dog sleep in the bed, don't let your dog jump on the couch, things like that. It doesn't matter, okay? Now, when it comes to resource guarding, that's different, because it's contextual. Dog feels like they own the bed. It's different. But it has, my dogs do that stuff all the time. My dog's perfectly fine, right? I have a lot of other clients, dogs do all that same stuff, perfectly fine, but they're putting discipline, they're putting consequences on the dog in a manner that they understand. We tend to do a lot of talking. No, stop, no, and that's what we go like. Do you discipline your dog? Yeah, just hit my dog, no. Like, what's that look like? I'll show you. No, right? He's shouting all that stuff.
You say no 22 times.
Exactly, dog's still doing it. Another dog just bites, right? The remote collar allows us to bite. Like Caesar does. He does the hand touch, right? So it's a bite at the press of a button. So here, this is how you can start establishing dominance. The people misconstrue it as dominance is overly aggressive or overpowering or forceful. It's not the case. It's literally a level of pressure increasing until I get the response that I want, and then the dog complies, and then I relax. So if we watch Caesar, and he's putting confrontational pressure on the dog, which is he comes into him and he'll like do something like this, right? And you see his stance, it's very authoritative, and then
Yeah.
you'll turn around and you'll relax,
Yeah.
right? So he goes from one gear
Yeah.
to another gear, right?
Yeah.
That's pressure. It's just a different form of pressure. On the expressway, if you're driving and someone's right behind you, okay, and they're like 6 inches behind your bumper, you have 4 responses. You can speed up, change lanes, nothing, or brake check, right? That pressure of them driving close to you is discomfort, right?
Yeah.
I don't like how this makes me feel. I'm gonna change lanes. There's room, they keep going,
Yeah.
right? It's the same thing here. So it's all over the place. It's just we're not seeing it that way anymore because we tend to rely solely like on words, okay?
Yeah.
So here, when you're working with these guys, okay, don't ever feel bad.
Okay.
Don't ever feel guilty. If you ever overhit and they yelp, it's okay, right? We tend to want to jump into consolation mode.
Yeah.
Consolation mode makes you look weaker,
Okay.
okay? Your intention is good, but the way your dog perceives it is you're soft,
Okay.
okay? So if, huh? Mom?
My mom.
Maybe we should bring mom next
Yeah.
time. When you're neutral and you're indifferent and you're not bothered by things, that's leader,
How they.
right? So like I run my own business here. I've had stuff happen with the facility, super stressful. But when my employees see me, I'm just like, all right, that's a problem. I gotta fix it, right? I don't let it, like, I'm not like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? We're gonna do it here. Like, I just start thinking of solutions, right? And I tell them, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. That's leadership, okay? If I were to get some wood over here, knock on wood, if I were to get in an accident, right? And, sirens show up, and I'm panicking, I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? And ambulance shows up, hey, sir, are you okay? Can you feel this? Can you move this? Can you do this? Blah, blah, blah. All right, I need you to do this, do this, do this, do this. Like, tell me what to do, because I'm unsure. But that presence and that authority and that direction makes me feel secure. Same thing with an anxious dog, okay? Except genetically he's wired that way, so you can only help him so much. But he's gonna look more to you
Yeah.
than he would to himself, because he's like, mom knows better.
Yeah.
So if I had an issue, I went to my teacher, I went to my mom, I went to an authority, and I told them. And if needed, I would protect myself, okay? It's all the same concepts, it's just seeing it differently, okay? So I've kept my mouth for about a good 10, 15 minutes. And he's been there for the most part the entire time, aside from like 2 minutes without any kind of word, right? Of course, here, he's in a sitting position, so that tells me he's not entirely relaxed, right? That's okay in the beginning. Of course, the more we do this, the more relaxed he becomes. So I'm gonna have you, whenever you're ready, go ahead and say the word break, and you start to move.
Break.
Have you circle around a couple of times. Good. Go ahead and pause. And wait. Yep, that's good. Whenever you move again. Just so he doesn't get stuck on the pattern of every time we stop, I'm gonna send you, right? So you can always shift a little bit. Yep, keep moving. Yep, you're good.
Do you think that was for the kid?
Sounds like a treat bag.
Okay, go ahead and pause there. And wait a sec. And then whenever you're ready, you're gonna cue that word place. And you're gonna start
Place.
tapping. Okay, there we go. Good. Yep, and you can move around again. Good. So he's not entirely settled, right? We're ignoring this for now.
Okay.
You can definitely see a lack of confidence.
Yeah.
So go and keep moving. Yep, little impulse there. Go ahead and speed up a little. Good. I'm gonna have you come to a side, either side, it doesn't matter. And I'm gonna have you give him a lot of praise. I'm gonna have you go, good boy, ah.
Who's your good boy? You told her. Who's your good boy?
Good, and you'll step away. Drop the leash, I'm going to walk around again. Good. So here, as he gets more relaxed, like, you know, going back into the home and stuff,
Mhm.
I would anticipate he's actually gonna be like excited
Yeah,
about it, right?
yeah.
Obviously, for putting in energy, it would be unfair to think that the dog's not gonna respond, right? So I don't care if you did like started wiggling and biting and all that stuff. What I cared about is when you stepped away,
He stayed there.
would he stay there, right? Would he shift gears and go from escalated to, okay, I'm back on the placemat, right? So that was good. Go ahead and release.
Break.
And we're gonna do 4 more of those, okay? Where you're just gonna walk around, you come to a stop, you'll pause, and then you'll do the same.
Place.
Good. Mm-hmm. As anxious as he is, his eyes are more relaxed.
Mhm.
He's not shaking as much as
No.
he is. Let's go with that.
Break.
Mm-hmm. Good. 3 more.
Break.
Good.
Do you automatically tap on break?
Oh, so break is not tapped. Yeah. Because break is you're off the clock.
So if you tell them break and they don't break, you just leave them because
Technically,
if
right?
they want to stay there, they can.
Yes. Now, if let's say you're trading and you say break and the dog doesn't move, it doesn't allow you to do this, right? In that case, I'll put tension on the leash first, off. If the dog is really resistant, then I'll put a tap to let them know like you need to move, so that we can keep repeating.
Place.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Break.
Good. 2 more.
Come on.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
You see the eyes, yep.
Place.
Good. That's good speed. Mhm.
Break.
Last one. And I'm gonna have you on this last, we're just gonna do a little experiment here.
Mhm.
Is I'll have you walk with Charles, like kind of by the chair there,
Mhm.
and you go a bit further
Mhm.
and try sending from there.
Place. Place.
There we go.
I'm gonna
Good.
sit down whatever is closest so it stops.
Go ahead and drop your leash, and you can have a seat. Does he jump on chairs at home?
He sits on my couch and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've never seen him sit on a foldable chair like that before.
Yeah. So he hopped up, right?
Yeah.
It is possible that he thought
Yeah, it
maybe
was
this
close.
is place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because that's the closest thing.
Yes, which is super uncommon just because that's higher and smaller,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, he doesn't mind jumping on things.
So then you tapped, and then right away, like you kind of saw him
Yeah.
shift. That
And
was the
ring
problem
boogie.
solving. Yeah,
Yeah.
like this isn't the right thing. He goes, he made his way to the most familiar thing, and patient turns off. Lo and behold, problem solved.
Mhm.
Okay, so I know right now this is controlled context. It's quiet. There's not much
Yeah.
going on, right? But like when you're walking with him,
Mhm.
like how he was just right there beside you,
Mhm.
like super relaxed, right? Because he has a constant of heel. The way we teach it, since there is no words, the heel tends to be like a default thing. So even if I walk with my dogs outside and I don't say anything, they will default into this position, okay? But technically, they could do
Whatever they want.
whatever they wanted until I actually cued the word, okay? So that's just one thing to keep in mind when we, once you pick them up and all that stuff. One thing that a lot of people do is, let's say, they've done place work, they have the bed, and the dog places itself. And they'll go, do I remote if the dog gets off the place? I go, no, like it was choice. Yeah, it's like if I went into my room as a kid, I could come out my room whenever I wanted, right? But if my mom was having friends over and she's like, Jesse, don't embarrass me, go to your room, it became a command, if you will. And I knew that I couldn't leave my room until my mom gave me permission, right? Same kind of concept here. So if he were to place himself or do any kind of, it looks like a down or a sit, he can freely break from it unless you make it a command, okay? Does this all make sense? Okay? So place, of course, starts the command, break, of course, ends it. Now, let's say Shaw is already on the bed on his own choice. But you then decide, I need you to not move. What do you think you would say?
Should just place.
Place. Or would you say stay?
There. So place means go to this object and don't move, right? But if he's already in position, so he's already on the bed, he's already laying down, or he's already sitting. Human logic says, I can't tell you to do something that you're already doing, right?
Right, you can't tell him to stay, is what you're saying.
Exactly, right? So then we would issue that word. Now it becomes the place command, and you would correct it as if it, as you had said place. So if you try to sneak off, tap, tap, he goes back on again, right? Because if he goes there, and then you decide, yeah, I don't want you to move, and he tries to sneak off and you remote him, it's like technically unfair, right? Because there's nothing that initiated in the first place. How's the dog supposed to know? They'll do it. And it's not like anything bad, but it's just confusing, like human-wise, right? So if the dog's already laying down on the couch and I decide I don't want you to move, stay. Now it becomes a down command that happens to be on the couch. Now, going back to your question earlier, if he's on place, can he sit, stand, all that stuff? Yes. But if you said place and then you gave him a down command, it's not place anymore. It's down. He just happens to be on place. And this is another thing that people do, is they'll go place, down. I'll tell them, just be aware that your dog can't sit up or stand up now, because now it's down. Like, but the dog's on place. Like,
Two different commands.
Exactly. The new command overrides the old command. Okay? So just being aware of that, and once you pick them up and all that stuff, we'll do a refresher on that, because it's something that people don't think about, and it's super common. Okay? Questions? Okay, let's go and swap handlers here. So Shaw is the orange button on the side. There you go. Hey, buddy. You're going away a sec.
I don't know.
You thought about it?
No. Better not.
Break.
Money.
Stick with me, buddy.
Is he walking behind because that's where he's supposed to do it on heel, or is he nervous?
Place.
He's a little nervous. So heel means walk with me, stay with me, sit when I stop. And his right shoulder should be parallel to your left leg. Okay, so if you're walking shoulder, that as an example, if I was Shaw, it would look like this.
Okay.
If I was sitting
Not
on the right
necessarily
side.
behind.
Correct.
Okay, he's
Now,
just-
if he's a little bit behind, this is okay. This is too much,
Okay.
and definitely not ever this.
Okay.
So,
Break.
even if it's an inch, because a lot of people will, people's concept of heel or leash walking is always related to pulling.
Yeah.
As long as my dog's pulling, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But that's not heel.
Yeah.
Heel is very strict, it's very black and white.
Yeah.
That even if the dog's just an inch ahead, I
That's
can
not
correct it, correct.
Place.
Good. Look at that speed. Good. We'll do 3 more.
So I'm gonna tell Mom.
Yeah, I know. Break. Place.
Good.
Break. I started walking every time I said break, didn't I?
Do a couple more. The good thing is you're aware of it. Because then, when you're actually applying the home, you'll catch yourself, and then you can actually address it.
Place.
Good. So there's a little hesitation there, a little confusion, right? Then with the taps, he moves forward. That's good. We'll do one more.
Break.
Good. Good.
So would he get confused when he do that?
Yes.
Because he doesn't know that it's one or
Correct. Right.
the other.
So like if we had more than one place in a room, if you always set one dog to one and the other dog to the other, they would learn that. They can also learn, let's say you switch it up, to go to, which one to go to by direction. So if you point, where you're pointing would dictate which one they go to.
You say hi?
I'm trying to see if I can do it.
Place.
Very good. Go and drop the leash. And have a seat. Good. So we'll be pushing this sends from more and more distance, and then once you 3 weeks when you pick them up, take them home. The concept is there. A very good foundation is all there, but they'll then have to transfer it, right? So let's say you designate something else as a place, right? You may not have this. You may just have the dog bed. It takes a couple of reps, and then the dog associates, oh, this is also a place, right? What's nice about this is that some of my clients will get a towel or a blanket that they'll carry in the back of their car. The lady with the Black Russian Terrier, she used a yoga mat. They'll take it, roll it out, place. Oh, that's handy. Another board and training. They're not just going to associate the first time, right? You have to do a couple of reps. But once you've done a couple of reps, the dog should get it, right? If we ever see confusion, not a big deal. What helps them distinguish the place in the area is the fact that there's like a perimeter, right? So if you're using a towel or a blanket, like there's a beginning and end to it, right? And place doesn't have to be something like this. I've had people use ottomans, towels, blankets, yoga mats. Somebody had an area rug, and they're like, Jessica, can this be place? I'm like, yeah, it's just a really big place. But your dog can't step off the area rug. People use couches, beds, dog beds, actual human beds, all that stuff. As long as there's a difference in texture or a perimeter, the dog, they don't understand, right, the difference.
Yeah.
They just go, okay, here's my place, and I stay within this area, okay? When we do duration stuff, there's two things that always come first, typically with remote collar. So, do you remember what a dog's first response is when they feel this?
Jump.
Close?
Run.
Yes, run away, right? Is we typically start with leash walking first. Okay, so so running is a moving behavior that we use a moving command to teach them how it turns on, how it turns off. This is when I do my home-to-home visits. So if, I may have told you this during the consultation, but I was like, the first thing we're going to cover is leash walking, right? In our case, it's actually place first, and then we do leash walking. Because right away, we start duration. So he literally went out, had a 15-20 minute session of this means go here. And then from there, they moved him, put him over on another bed, placed him, and he was there for the next 2 hours. Before he had his play group, or before he went outside the potty, or before his next training session, he was there. And he made mistakes. Okay, he got up 3 to 4 times, for example. We have this, remote, he hops back on, 30 minutes later, he tries to hop off, remote, hops back on, right? So when it comes to duration, you don't have to do 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15 minutes to 20 minutes. As long as the dog has a concept and we have something to make the dog want to go back, in this case an aversive, we can start off right away with as long as we want, okay? So these guys have been doing duration work since day one, okay? I think the one that had the hardest time with it was actually Jack. He kept wanting to hop off, and I think it was probably like 5 or so minutes of like constant mistakes before he finally decided like, okay, I'm gonna stay here for a while. And then 30 minutes later went by and he made a mistake. Him with his anxiety, it was just a couple times, and like you saw, he would flip off and just tap and he'd go back, and then it's like, okay, well I guess I'm just gonna be here for a while.
Yeah.
And Duncan was just like, whatever. Like, does that sound like your personality?
Yeah,
That's all right. Yep.
Yes. So nothing good or bad, just all part of the process. Okay. Questions so far? So I'm trying to think. Here's the recovery duration. I'm trying to think how I want to do this. So I'd like to demonstrate how all this works. I think I'm going to grab Jack next.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is we're going to keep him in here. We're going to place him on the side or so that we can do duration while we're working with Jack. Okay? Now, here, tip, 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 tip. I was going to say, when you go to pick up your leash, expect that to happen.
Yeah.
Right? So when you picked it up, I expect it to happen. So here, when I go to pick up, I'm normal. Okay? As soon as he goes, and the moment I saw the thought,
Yeah.
I kicked in with the remote. Okay? Now, in some cases, if the brain is already on, I want to get off, and you remote, it'll push them into the behavior. Yes. So if that happens, I start it, the dog makes the wrong decision, I keep that pressure on, the dog goes, okay, it didn't mean to go.
Yeah.
He goes back, he's like, the next time I know, when I feel that, to end it faster, I'm just gonna disengage from the behavior itself. Okay, great. I'm gonna grab this placement here. Not yet, buddy, too soon. Listen. I'm gonna hand this to you, hand you this, and I'll be back with Jack.
Here comes the madman. Get his rash back.
It's been back.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
You can tell he's stressed all his veins or something.
His face looks to go.
How about that?
Yeah.
Good?
His legs at least.
I guess I don't know.
That's not good. You like him?
Yeah.
She was a lot less.
I like, he thinks the way I think about dogs is that you have to love them, but if you don't,
You have to give them
If
some
you
sort
don't-
of structure.
if you don't structure them, then you get what we typically end up with is dogs that are,
Nice dogs, but don't listen. He's a lot less freaked out than I thought he was gonna be.
yeah, it's not good.
You listening?
I probably promised myself after the Truman that the next dog was gonna be trained, I don't care how we did it.
What did you see?
First one was, he's bigger than I remember.
River here yet? River? Okay. Jack.
You ready?
Yeah. There you go. Good.
All right, yeah, no, I didn't leave you.
Good.
I bet that. I got girls here.
Okay, that's what we get.
There we go. Go to place them. Jack, place. Oh.
Nighty, buddy.
Yep.
Nighty, buddy.
Yep. Good. There it is. And then it's just wrapped around his arm there.
No.
Yep, do one more tap here. There you go. And you're still at 9?
Yes.
Good. So, we had a moment. I went out. I was like, I'm gonna work with Jack, and then Duncan was out there, and then where we had Shaw placed, she's like, "But where's Shaw?" And I was like, "He was just here." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, we have him." Jack brings an energy, right, and it influences him.
Mm-hmm.
And just a couple of taps, he dialed back, and the energy got closer to you, and then he wants to be a part of it, and just taps, and you start to see him step back, right? So here, it's kind of like disassociating old behaviors, which is like, oh, you bring in Jack, and then like everybody just like it's high and like we greet and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, sure, but not when you're under command, okay? I did tap Jack a couple of times when I saw him get a little jumpy with you, and also to you when he jumped up, tap, tap, and then he came back and there was one more tap, so it was about 4 total. So when it comes to excitement or excited type energy, we can't make the dog a robot and kill the excitement, right?
Yeah.
But what we can do is teach them to keep those paws on the ground. When it comes to excitement energy, I'm okay with like the wiggling, the rubbing and all that stuff. It's really just don't jump, okay? Because that's what knocks someone down. So when I saw the thought or the action itself, I just kicked in. I didn't say no, so that he's learning. I can be excited. I just have to keep these paws on the ground, okay? So if we were to cue like the word off, it's the most common one. What does that mean? It means Jack can technically jump until you cue the word off, right? So if we want to teach him not to jump in the first place, it's just simply aversive the moment we see the thought or we see the behavior. Now, let's say you want Jack to jump on you, and you invite him, and you're petting him. It would be unfair at some point to randomly just remote him, right? Because you cued it. In that case, you want to then say off, because it's I invite you up, and I tell you when you get down, okay? Once you've cued off, then yes, you can use this to reinforce it until you've taught him, oh, when they say jump, it means they can hop up, I'll get pet, blah, 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 blah. But the moment I hear the word off, it means to disengage. So if, for instance, with furniture, people are some people don't care, some people don't want the dog in furniture, some just want the dog in furniture once they are invited. Same concept there. If we don't care about the dog jumping on the couch, then we don't ever say anything. If we don't want the dog on the couch ever, we just apply consequence whenever we see that they're whenever we see that they're going to jump on. And if we want to control it, we would have to invite them, and then we'd also have to tell them when they're done, and they would get off. So that's when cues come into play. Whenever you see a dog doing something, you're kind of just thinking to yourself, I don't like this. Do I want to control it, or do I want to eliminate it? When you want to eliminate, simply aversive, no words. When you want to control, word. So if we go to the front door for an example, or let's say the window, and the dogs are barking at other dogs, they're barking at people walking by, and all that stuff, and you don't need them barking out the window, ever. You would apply an aversive there to stop that, and they learn, we don't bark out the window, but somebody knocks on the door and they bark. You want to control that. And dogs can learn, we don't bark out the window, but if someone knocks, we can bark until mom or dad says, no more bark. Okay, so dogs are super nuanced, and you can fine tune it how you like it. We have to make sure that we're being consistent, because a lot of times people become inconsistent. That creates confusion, and of course the dog won't learn what you're wanting. Okay, so Jack and Duncan should be easy studies because you've already had practice here with Shaw, but it's all the same concepts. bringing them in, Jack's already at a 25, okay? Or he was at a 9, okay? So just understanding that, right? The other thing is don't ever get married to a number. Right now it might be 9. At home it could be 18. Outside it could be 42. In a nice quiet park it could be 33. It's all about, I know what the dog knows or associates. Does the dog respect the command enough in the setting to perform it? And it always comes down to number. So in a non-stimulating environment like this, it's lower numbers, unless you're Jack. But 25 is not the ordinary. It's usually about 15, 25 is the norm.
Yeah.
Okay. I go by the dog. Okay. Break. Yeah, boy. You can see how he's taking to the remote too, like he's not too fazed by it. Place. Good. Right.
Just sit here and stare at your dad.
Yes. Tail's wagging, right?
Yeah.
Don't mean to interrupt, his car is gonna need recharged soon, so that might be affecting his number.
They're orange.
If you'd like the CPE color.
No, it should be fine. Orange will last, yeah. Red is dying. So here, when we're using aversives, when people see this, they're thinking it's this. And I go, no, it's the dog. This is just bringing it out more. Because when you get a stable dog, it's this, right? He's unfazed by it. It's obviously not a good or a bad thing. It's just kind of, it is what it is type of thing. So if you're ever working with them, don't let that kind of, because when people see that, they're thinking like, oh crap, I have to dial back more.
Yeah.
And I go, no, it's always appropriate to the dog and the situation. So if you need more power, you use more power. Because I would do the same thing for Jack, and I'm going to do the same thing for Shaw. Okay? Break. Yes, that's a chair. Place. Tip. 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 Good. Good. Break. Yeah, boy. Place. Good. You see, like, he's kind of waiting, like, what's next?
Yeah.
Right? So, different personality types. That's why I like working with multiple dogs in the home, because it helps like kind of educate people a bit more. Just like with humans. I remember I had an ex-girlfriend where we got in an argument over like a reservation, and I got a little stern with my voice, and she literally shuddered, and I felt terrible. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not yelling, it's sorry. And then I was like, did your parents ever spank you growing up? And she's like, no. She's like, all they had to do was like use a firm tone, and that was all I needed.
Yeah.
So, same thing for the dogs, right? So think of like that 9, it's a super subtle, just like, you need to do this, right? But for Shaw, it's like the equivalent of 25 for Jack, right? Jack's a much more resilient, confident, outgoing energy type that he needs more in order to keep him to the same standard that 9 is creating with Shaw. Okay, so that's why I go, number doesn't matter, it's all about the behavior. If we had a bunch more distractions going on, that 25 might become 46. And then it's like, okay, now Shaw, Jack, so many names. The Jack is like, okay, I will behave myself because 46 is a number that I respect. In this kind of context, I'm not going to mess with it. Break. And avoid. Please. Yeah. Very good. Try. And we'll go down, then we'll try 21. There we go.
Hey, buddy. Break.
No, buddy. No, you don't jump on girls, are nice.
Place. Place.
Oh. Says I'm ready to go home now, Dad. That's all I need.
That covers shit.
Perfect.
Get down here. Break. Bust me out of this joint.
Oh boy.
Place.
Good. 2 to 3 more reps. On the next one, once you place them, I'm gonna have you do a little bit of walk around and then come in with a lot of energy and then see how he does.
Break. The energy should flip him out.
He's very
So
excited.
excited.
He's
So
just a
excited.
little
So
puppy.
excited. So excited. So excited. So excited.
Got a lot of energy.
He does.
He's a very good dog.
He is. He's just a lot of energy and doesn't know
Nice.
what to do with it.
Good. I have another dog actually, because he's a lab Danish, right?
This,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. His name was Obi. First name is Obi. It looks exactly the same.
Really.
It was a lab Dane mix too.
I kind of think that's what Duncan is too. They didn't know what he was mixed with.
He looks like a chocolate lab to me. Yeah.
Really?
What a good boy. What a good boy.
He's such a good boy. He's such a good boy. Good.
Break.
Have 2 more.
Gosh, that's his face.
Place.
Good. He's like, not now, Dad, I'm working.
You're embarrassing me.
Not time for fun games. Not for Jesse. Break.
Good. And last one. Good boy.
Hang it up. See if you can do something from far away. Place. Place.
There he goes. Yeah, oh boy. Good. Come here, see.
Oh, you're so proper.
I know, I was about to say the same thing too, right? Good.
He's so fancy.
So, Jack, very relaxed face,
Mm.
right? So just the concept of aversives and stuff, like it doesn't make dogs shut down.
No.
If we see it, it's because that's
There's
just the
something
dog.
else, yeah, there's something else
Exactly.
going on.
So you can tell he respects you though, because he looks at you and
He knows.
You just see it in his eyes.
Yep. So
He's
we're
like,
gonna
what,
go to
he's,
next.
he's looked at it like, what are we gonna do next? Yeah.
And when it comes to, how would you say, that looking for direction, right? Like, so I worked with a little Cavapoo, say Sunday on Friday night. Dog's never been, oh no, not so that's a lie. Dog has been trained, food stuff.
Mhm.
She did a little bit of prong collar. And the dog is like reactive or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's a little guy, little 25-pound guy.
Mhm.
I wish I would record the session because it was so good. And in the beginning, every time we were teaching the dog to go to place, we would turn around and just focus on them, right? Just zone
Yeah.
in. But then as we started to work him through it, he started turning around and looking at me. And I did no food,
Mhm.
did no sound, you know? I was just using the pressure, but it was associated to me because I'm the one directing him. And eventually he was like, oh, this that's going on right now and the leash pressure must be coming from you.
Yeah.
So dogs would give me more attention.
Right.
And looking for direction. And it didn't have to be me, I didn't have to be making the dog yelp or anything like that. It was just finding the number that was appropriate, that was low enough that the dog wasn't under a bunch of stress, but high enough that the dog was like, I need to figure out how to stop this, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you, question so far? Pretty simple,
This
right?
alone is amazing.
All that he's there and not moving. It did, you know, the first day, of course, he
It took a little time,
Take a little
yeah.
time, yeah. That's why I love remote though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well, because I've been prong collar training him.
Yes.
That was the best way I could get him to listen.
Mhm.
But then when he's not by me, and I want to correct something, I'm trying to chase him down.
Mhm.
In order,
Oh, yeah, just gotta get the prompt,
Yeah, he
yeah.
runs because he knows I'm coming after to get the prompt. So
Correct.
this is, yeah.
Yes.
And I had the other one like she had, but I never really knew how to use it, so I didn't really use it on her because I didn't want to like do it wrong. So.
Right, which is wise. So when it comes to prong color, I love prong color, it's a great tool. But the drawbacks are one, when you don't have it, the leash, right? Or even if you have a short handle leash.
Yep, you still got to be
Yep.
right next to him, yeah.
Or we get dogs that are so resilient. Like you can give them your harshest correction
Yeah.
and they're just like, we
Nah.
bite each other, like this is nothing, right? So with remote, again, I can be super subtle and I can also be, at a different degree approach to the dog. And it takes away a lot of the conflict and frustration. Because one, if you're frustrated because you can't catch your dog,
Yeah.
right? We're humans.
Yeah.
Or like if I have a dog and like let's say the husband doesn't have the technical skill or the strength to correct the dog and the wife does and vice versa, because sex has nothing to do with this. It's all about can you correct to the degree that the dog respects. Is that they're like, well, the dog listens to my husband, but then listen to me, or the dog listens to my wife, won't listen to me. This takes that variable out. So I had a 120-pound German Shepherd, and the couple they're probably like, I think they're mid-60s, 70s. And I was like, why did you get a German Shepherd? Thankfully, she was super sensitive to the e-collar, and they were like 8 to 14
Oh, wow.
for her. But the wife was this, 65, 70-year-old lady about this tall. The husband was like this tall. So he, even though he was older, he still had like the height and the,
Yeah.
to have more control. But if anything, if she needed more assistance, all it would be was her number would be higher.
Yeah.
I can close that gap now. So if I have one energy that's softer than the other, or doesn't have the strength or so to do a valid correction, doesn't matter with this. Because when I press it at 9, and you press it at 9, and she presses it at 9, it's all the same, it's consistent, yeah.
Yep.
What's also great about this is that transference is very high. About 80% of what we teach, like day one, when I work with my clients with their dog, just transfers over. And then, like, let's say they get a dog walker, and they want their dog walker to reinforce it. I'm like, yeah, no problem, just teach them what to do. It's real simple. Press this at this and do this, right? 80% transfers over. And I actually had a dog walker leave me a review. She's like, I've never trained with Jesse, but I work with one of his dogs that has been trained, whatever. And she's like, this dog is my favorite dog to walk. It's a 150-pound dog. And she's like, and he's so easy to walk because of his training, right? Doesn't matter because of e-collar. Okay, so we get off-leash control, we don't have to argue with the dog, and it also takes away confrontation. Going back to the fearful dog, that yanking, that physical connection, right? This removes that. So then we don't get frustration and we don't get negative energy. Whenever we correct, there should never be any emotion involved. It is what it is. You don't do that. When we give delays or time for the dog to make the right decision, creates frustration because what if they don't, or when they don't, right? And that's why, so these guys have a learning capacity of a 3 to 4-year-old child. 3 to 4-year-old child needs to be told what to do. Go get dressed, go eat your dinner, put the toys away, go get ready for bed, go to the bathroom, blah, 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 right? But that 3 to 4-year-old child matures and gets older, right? And then eventually you don't have to tell them what to do, for the most part. Some people,
But you
right?
told them at the beginning, so if you didn't tell them at the beginning when they were 20, they wouldn't know what to do, so it's still a...
So kind of just as a process, yeah. So these guys, however, are permanently 3 to 4-year-old children, which when we go back to the tools and when we would apply them and when we would need them, I would say when you need them. If in the home, if it's just a family and Jack's awesome, don't need it. But if you're gonna have a dinner with like a bunch of relatives coming over, it's like, we need it. Because it's a stimulus that's outside of the norm, right?
Yeah.
If we're going for a walk, we're gonna need it because we can't account for life. Doesn't mean that you're always using it. It just means you have that control should something happen. Because he's still a dog.
Yeah.
He's still a 3 to 4-year-old child, right?
Yeah.
So it's like someone who's mentally handicapped and has the learning capacity of a 9 to 10-year-old. They'll never get past that point. They may get a little further, but ultimately they're a child in the brain, right? Same thing for these guys. So this has nothing to do with the training. This has nothing to do with your skills as a trainer or our skills as trainers. It's simply opportunistic behavior, okay? Questions? Let's go to swap. So we'll give your dad Shaw, and then you'll take Jack.
Just take-
Okay.
There you go. So when you come to Jack, you want to give him some energy here first.
Hi, Gigi. Good girl. Oh, my goodness. I know. When you're favorite.
He loves his
I
girl.
know. You love it. You do.
Trying to pick up the leash. Good.
Sorry about understanding.
You relax for a moment. Good. Good. So here, if we look at preventative measures, he's on the place. You come up with a lot of energy. His tail's wagging, and he's just more submissive than anything, right? Because all this was fresh in his head. Place means something,
Yeah.
right? Ideally, this is how it should be in the home. So let's say, fast forward a few weeks, you take them home, and you're like, let's use it. And then, relative comes over, and maybe Jack's kind of bouncy, because we have to transfer it to the home setting, okay? So all that stuff is normal, but this is what he is capable
Yeah.
Right.
of doing. You, of course, have to reinforce it.
Yeah.
Going back to children, when I was a kid, sometimes my grandma would watch me, and my grandma let me get away with stuff. Okay, so when I was with my grandma, I knew I could press boundaries.
Yeah.
And if I was with my mom and my grandma, I knew if I did something and my mom tried to discipline me, my grandma was like, no, leave him alone, right? But once my grandma was out of the picture,
Yeah. I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back, right? I gotta behave myself because mom's not gonna let me get away with this, right? Dogs are the same way. So you mentioned earlier, he respects you, right? Because I'm very consistent and I hold him accountable and I use the appropriate number for everything. So he goes, okay, there's no getting away with things with Jesse.
Yeah.
So let's say with your mom, right? Let's say she's soft,
She is.
Yes.
okay? And you show her all this stuff. And she's like, but I really don't like it. I feel bad, right? And he needs 25, but she's only on 10 and she never escalates. He learns that. Okay? I got some here. Go ahead and do a couple of place movements. I'm gonna let my handler know that I have.
Break.
Hello.
You want to jump on me? I know you do. I can see it.
I don't remember him being so big.
He's a giant boy. Nice. Nice. You'll need to get him a bigger place.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit good on this place.
You mean aerial rug?
That's good choice, Jack. Break.
Did Shaw move?
He
Try to.
started to get up.
Okay.
I think that had more to do with hearing stuff going on out there.
Mhm.
He was kind of looking that way, like, what's going on.
Nice.
So, like, I have a question. So,
Yes.
when she's at home with her two dogs,
Mm-hmm.
how can they differentiate whether she's talking to him or Duncan? She says place. How does one know it's one or the other?
So, with my three guys, when I had three, I have two now. If I said place, it was like a general command,
So they
right?
would all go.
Correct. If I said Lexi, place,
Mhm.
right? So we do a lot of the individual. They're already starting to walk together, both Duncan and Shaw.
Okay.
Um, to start getting, so like, let's say they're in heel,
Mhm.
it would just be a general heel, right?
Okay.
In more advanced training, the way it would look like is, let's say I have Duncan and Shaw at my side. And I come to a stop, they automatically sit.
Right.
And I said heel and walk, I said Shaw heel. Technically, Duncan
Would stay
should
there.
stay back,
Yeah.
right? In the beginning, there's a lot of confusion,
Yeah.
because then they have to really kind of fine tune and think like,
Is she
oh,
talking to me or is she talking to both of us? or-
exactly.
Okay. I was just curious, like, if somebody's coming in and, because Duncan is a lot more laid back, like, if she needs him to go to his place, but not necessarily Duncan.
Sure,
Just Sean, place.
correct. Good.
Break.
Good, just do a couple more.
And you should be able to get to a point where you're in the other room of the house and you say place and you go right to wherever.
Yes.
Doesn't even matter where they're starting from, they know where to go.
Correct. So when doing that transference, getting there is going to be super easy, but you have to start closer and then work your way back, right?
Yeah.
The other thing that we want to do is when we send to place, I send from different angles. So if you always send from one position or one direction, dogs are very much picture-based, right? Is you do it 1,000 times this way, and then one day you decide, let me try it the other way.
They're not gonna.
Dog's not gonna know, right? And it sounds super
Break.
silly,
No, but
but it's just how dogs are. That's why I was saying that if you walk them and you're always putting pressure on, it becomes a part of that picture. So I try to vary it as much as possible because I want the dog to associate the word and kind of leave everything else out of it.
Place.
Good, I'm gonna hold for a sec. Very good. Questions so far? And when it comes to stuff like this, like, let's say, because when we have multi-dog homes, people tend to feel guilty when one dog gets more than the other. Okay? Like Jesse, like, if I don't let my other dog sleep in the bed, they gonna hate me? I'm like, no. They really don't care. Okay? They only care when you care, but it's not because they even care, it's just the energy about it, right?
they care when you let them do it, then take it away from them.
Correct, right? What you could technically do, but then you want to be consistent. It can't be one day yes, one day no, right? It's yes for 2 weeks, nope, didn't work out, now it's no forever. And you can always change it to yes 2 years later, but inconsistency obviously confuses everybody.
Right.
Just like our laws change over time, not day by day,
Yeah.
right? So, let's say, the way I go by things is the dogs earn, and you can drop his leash here, go ahead, feel free to have a seat. Dogs, oh, yeah, there you go. Good. For me, what a dog can do is are privileges, okay? Privileges to the degree of that even coming out of the kennel to go potty is a privilege, okay? I'm super strict, and because of that strictness is what allows me to have difficult dogs or handle difficult dogs, because there is no gray area, right? So if I come into a home and I have a 11-year-old golden retriever and a 1-year-old golden retriever, and the 1-year-old is just running amok, right? And they're like, well, Jess, but we let the older one sleep on the bed. I'm like, it doesn't matter. The younger one is misbehaving. They're chewing up the stuff. They're barking at things. They're being reactive. Once all that gets resolved, you can always bring it back.
Right.
But right now, it's a right.
Yeah.
And it sounds bad, but when dogs feel they have rights, it creates issues. Okay? If we take the kennel, and the dog feels it's God-given right to not be kenneled and to be let out of the kennel, we get separation anxiety.
Duncan, yes.
Okay? He's a little vocal, but we've been correcting it.
Good.
way we fix this
Mhm.
is we make the kennel, what's the word? There's no choice.
Mhm.
If I say the word kennel, you get in there, door open or closed, doesn't matter, you're not coming out until I give you permission. So when we remove the meaning of the gate, because most dogs, when you open it, just shoot
Yeah.
out, right? Because they know it's a guarantee, it creates that anxiety. But if I come home and I open the gate and they are not allowed to come out, and if they do, remote goes off, or there's some kind of consequence for trying to come out uninvited, and it becomes a privilege. When I come home and I open it, I can go make a sandwich,
Mhm.
sit down, watch TV for another 45 minutes, come back, the dog's still in the kennel.
Yeah.
Chill. There's nothing to be anxious about because it's not a right. It's on my terms. So it removes the meaning of it. If we take, for instance, if we have a car, and actually, let's say my friend has a car, and I'm outside, I'm waiting for my friend to come, and I see someone I don't know sitting on their car. Why are you sitting in my friend's car? Right? I care because I know it belongs to my friend. But if they're sitting on somebody else's car, I don't care because there's no ownership. There's no right to it there. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Same thing for dogs. So everything is always a privilege. If I come out with a ball and the dog loves ball, I don't want a jumping dog. I don't want a dog trying to bite it out my hand. And I'll see a lot of people doing this, right? When they come in,
Yeah.
they'll hide it.
Mhm.
The dog's going crazy for it. I'm like, no. You're not hiding that ball. Walk out. That ball is yours.
Mhm.
Hold it, right? Dog jumps at it, remote. Eventually the dog stops jumping at it. Start moving again. I'm removing the meaning. If you try to go for it, you're gonna get remoted. If you don't go for it, you don't get remoted, and maybe I'll give it to you. Take the ball, set it on the table, walk away. Dog goes over, I really want it. Remote, okay, can't have it, right? I'm removing the meaning, I go grab the ball, break. Here it is. Now we're engaged, right? I can play ball. Then when I decide we're done, out, drop the ball, I can leave it on the ground. I don't have to pick it up. Dog knows once they hear the word out, it's over. The ball is not theirs anymore, okay? So rights create issues when we're dealing with dogs, okay? These guys are not meant to be in a kennel. They're not meant to be in a home. They're not meant to be with a collar and with tags and all that stuff. They're meant to be outside peeing on stuff, pooping, mating, hunting, and repeating, right? But of course, integrating them into human life requires these things like kennel training and all that stuff, which is where these things come into effect, okay? So that's why I always come with a lot of understanding for dogs because we're so used to living with them and being with them 24/7. Anybody for the most part can walk into a no-kill shelter, or a shelter or whatever, and then just go like, I want that one, $50, thank you, and walk out, right? It's so easy that it makes dogs very disposable, but also makes them so accessible that that human-canine relationship is they're viewing them as another human. You know, like you should know better than to like poop in the house.
Right.
Yeah.
No.
No.
They're meant to be pooping wherever they want to poop, right? We have to train these things. So, questions?
Oh.
So, Mr. Jack here, you sent him to place, you walked away, he tried to follow, and you did like a half turn, you remoted, he stopped, took a couple of taps, and then he self-corrected, no leash, right? This is how it's supposed to look, okay? Remote collar should be easy, it should never be an argument. If you feel like you're arguing with the dog, you're probably too low, okay? So the Black Russian Terrier, here he was operating on a 14. The highest we had to go was like 76, I think, for him, because he was being super protesty. And as soon as we shut that protest down with the 76, he was easy, he was very compliant. But then I took him, the owner picks him up, and she had a mishap with her collar. It was like going off randomly, so she had to send it in. So, and then he got neutered. So there was like a 3 to 4 week period where he got no training reinforced, right? She calls Jesse, I need to borrow a collar, I can't take it anymore. Gator's going nuts, okay? I go, no problem, I pick him up. And then she's like, he's not listening. And I go, you're too low, right? She couldn't get him to listen. I show up for a follow-up. I walk in the door. He runs up to me, super excited, and she's tapping and remoting, and she's like, see, he doesn't listen. I'm like, go up. He's still not listening, go up. Still not listening, go up. 53 or something. Ran straight to place and stayed there for the rest of the hour while we had a conversation and tweaking things. So she was going by her experience here. Jaeger only needed 14 and he was so good. Why does he need more here? Well, he went 4 weeks with no training because of the neutering and all that stuff. And you're operating too low because you're relating to the facility experience, right? So in the future, if you ever feel like you're struggling, you're too low, okay? When I get clients that I train during the summer and the spring, summer, fall time, everybody's out enjoying time with their dogs. Come the winter time, people tend to get lax, then they pick them up. Once spring picks up, I get emails, Jesse, like we got lax, like the dogs are untrained. I'm like, they're not untrained. They never forget this stuff. This is like riding a bike, okay? It's just a number. Okay, so even though Jaeger went 4 weeks or so without any training or reinforcement, as soon as we came back and found that number that he was gonna respect, all of a sudden he remembers everything, okay? So here, when Jack was moving away and you tap, there's a couple of taps, he turns around, he self-corrects. Remember that picture, okay? If you ever feel like he's not getting it or anything like that, you're most likely too low. Doesn't mean you go from 15 to 100.
Right.
We do incremental jumps. So for a guy like him, we go in jumps about 5, 15, 20, 25, 30. Or 15, 22, 27, 33, 40. 5 to 8-ish, it doesn't have to be exact numbers, okay? Because if you get stuck on exact numbers, you're gonna be there forever.
Yeah.
For a dog like Shaw, I go in jumps of 3 to 5 as opposed to 5 to 8 because of personality, okay? As you get more used to like just the going up and down with the remote stuff, it gets super easy, okay? Questions? Are you ready for Duncan?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna grab Duncan, I'm gonna take Shaw, place him in the back, and then we'll take Jack, place Jack here. And we'll get started with Duncan.
Hey, buddy. Jessica. Oh. Maybe he's crying for Shaw. Maybe you take this so that I could
No, he's crying for Jesse.
read my Duncan.
They get to be, they really like to have somebody to tell them what
I
to
know
do.
they do. Especially labs, they're working dogs, they need a task. You still seem happy.
No, he seems fine. Break.
You know why Shaw jumped up on that chair? Because Mom let him sit next to him on that, that's why.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Place.
This one's good. This is an extra place for me to have. Oh, so nice. I need an extra large place.
I will get you a bigger place. Don't worry.
See how this works out. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Doesn't matter if they see this, I have a lot of people always say, well, it's just because they see it, and that's what they're afraid of, but it doesn't really matter, right?
So, tap. 19. Oh, let's go to 24. That's a yes and no question. What a lot of people have done is they keep this away from them on the coffee table. They're watching their dog, and the dog goes to do something. The action of reaching for the remote, because then they know once they see that action, the remoting happens. So they're associating when we see you reach for this particular object. It's not. One sec.
Yeah.
Because she put them on a separate collar because we had Shaw.
Oh.
So this is on Shaw still. Maybe this is
She's like, I'm not doing anything.
Do it.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot of jumping you have. You're more crazy than Check is.
22.
Oh. Just back.
Thank you.
All right, there it is.
It's the action they learn to recognize, right? Because it makes it really conspicuous. So as long as you're not going threatening your dog, some
Yeah.
people do that too, because they're like, I got the remote, and the dog knows that this is then followed by this, right? Dogs do come to recognize the collar,
Yeah.
whether it's present or not, right? And I said this earlier, it's not the trainer or anything, it's opportunistic behavior. If you say sit and the dog registers, you have no treats.
Not gonna do that.
There's no collar,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Not happening.
Yeah.
Depending on the context, right? If there's nothing going on in the home,
Sure.
outside the park and it's empty, sure. Somebody comes into the picture, stimulus, much harder to argue with,
Yeah.
right? And when people argue, well, Jesse, I've seen dogs on the internet and they're completely naked. I go, okay, one, you're either looking at someone's dog of a professional dog trainer who's been raising that dog since 2 months, training since day one, thousands of hours of training invested in that dog, right? And two, if it's a positive reinforcement trainer, it's always a very bland environment, okay? Because they can't argue with stimulus.
Yeah.
So the reality of it is whether or not you're using positive reinforcement or positive punishment, you're going to, when you remove the motivator, you will always see a dip in performance, okay? So I like to think of this as my cop on the collar. I always use this as an example, and then I got a real example. I was driving to Highland Park for a client. I saw police, and I was going 80. So I'm like, right, slow down, police. So I'm like parallel to the police car. And it's like that for 2 to 3 minutes. And then someone just starts to blaze past in the middle lane. And I'm like, man, you're ballsy. Like just blazing past the police officer. And then more people start doing it. And I was like, what? And I looked, and I said, campus police, Loyola University. And I go, oh, nobody cared anymore. But the presence of law enforcement changes our behavior. This is like your law enforcement for your dog, right? That when they have it on, of course, they'll be much better behaved. They're gonna, just like with people, cops not around, I can go 80. Cops around, I have to go 55 or 60. I have to go the speed limit, right? A real example I like to use is Ferguson. A few years back when all that happened, right? People were looting, rioting, setting things on fire, absence of authority. You know, some people, authority comes back, we get structure again, we get peace. So even humans, we're opportunistic as well, right? If we can get away with it,
Yeah.
why not? Some of us are not. Some of us are just like, nope, not gonna do that. That's just a personal thing, right? Same thing with dogs. I get some dogs that I give them one correction and it's 180 and they're a different dog for the rest of their life. Super easy peasy. Not even remote needed, right? And I get other dogs where it's like every day you have to correct them. Just like with some people. It's like you constantly have to be checking them, otherwise they try to get away with stuff, right? So it's all personality stuff, nothing good or bad. And it's just learning what your dog's particular personality is, right? Questions? So I come in with a remote that's actually paired to the collar. So we're at 22. So it's the same stuff here, right? If we look at Duncan, he's like in the middle. You have Shaw, who's super anxious. You have Jack, who's not anxious. And then you get Duncan. And he's in that middle range, right? Where he's more relaxed than Shaw, but at the same time, he is displaying some level of anxiety, right? One thing I want to note here is that he's got his back to you, okay? This can be because earlier with his behavior is very much targeted, right? That when I started to remote him, what I was saying was, don't do that. But sometimes in the beginning, the dog will get confused and they're thinking it's associated to you. So if I'm teaching a dog to heel and the owner's right there, when I'm walking to the owner, almost always the dog will pull to the owner. So then I'll remote and get the dog to come back. And I'll keep repeating that. And every time I come to the owner, the dog forages, and I remote, and I turn around to get them to walk to my side. Eventually the dog learns, be here. And as I walk towards the owner, they start to lag behind because they're thinking every time I go to my owner, I get promoted. And it's really, no, it's every time you leave my left hip, we're being promoted, right? But it takes going through the motions first before the dog starts to clarify and go, oh, this has nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with me, okay? Questions?
I don't think so.
Alrighty, so you should all know the pattern by now. Break. Yes, I know dogs. Place. Tip, tip, tip. Good. He's like, this isn't place, mine is bigger.
You need a big dog.
Yeah, we have a larger one for him.
Yeah, you're a big boy.
We'll go to 25.
It's hard living in such a small world, I think.
Right. Good. Good boy. It's his little tail wagging. Yep. Place. Good. Tip, 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 tip. Good. Good.
Too big.
I know. When we first, so my clientele base is like Jack size. Most of my dogs.
Yeah.
We opened here mid-July. No, sorry, I got the space mid-July. We opened mid-September. And we bought a bunch of like this size kennels. And all our board and trains, we had a 130, 40 pound Great Dane.
I saw that.
We had a 150 pound Black Russian Terrier. We had an Alaskan Alsatian come out who was like 150 pounds, very big floof. And a couple others, I don't remember them off the top of my head. And I was like, crap.
We need bigger space.
I had all of these big dogs that I wasn't prepared for. So during that time, we only had one mat that was appropriate to their size. So we had to get by with smaller ones, and then I ordered these, and then I ordered some bigger ones. I was like, you know what, if I get the big one, any dog can go on it. So, whatever. Break. And boy. And that you. Place. Thought about it. You want to go tomorrow on that one? So you see that panting? That's stress. Okay, but it's not, it's venting stress. Whereas for Shaw, it was in stress. So the difference is, you know, we have facing and practicing stress, I guess. So to give you an example, when I do or did puppy classes, almost always there would be one particular puppy hiding underneath someone's chair. And I'll tell them, take the puppy, and and plant them right in front of you in the group.
Mhm.
And then they would sit there and they would look like this. Their eyes would be bulging, they'd be panting, they're under stress and they're shaking.
Yeah.
And then I'll go, but Jesse, the dog is scared. I go, yes. But when the dog is underneath your chair, they're practicing the fear. And when they're outside in the group, they're confronting the fear. In both cases, they're scared.
Yeah.
But in one case, it prolongs the fear, and you're gonna keep seeing it. In the other case, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
By class 2 to 3, next thing you know, they're playing with the other puppies, right? So this is kind of like that dealing with stress,
Yeah.
letting it go, whereas Shaw is still in the phase of like practicing it. But that's all just part of the process. Break. Attaboy. Good. Place. Good. One. Do one more. Yeah, he just looks like chocolate lab to me.
Really?
I don't know what he could eat with mixed with really. Break. Good. I had a chocolate lab puppy that I trained since he was 2 months. And when he was 6, 8 months, he was like 20 pounds. And the dad was like 180, 100 pound chocolate, right? Place. And they're like, why is he so small? Because they fed him good food.
Yeah.
And I remember going like, I don't know, maybe he's just gonna be like a teacup chocolate lab or something. And then the next week, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, like now he's like 80, 90 pounds. He's
Yeah.
a big boy. He just had like late growth spurt.
Yeah.
So nothing different from the other guys, right? Same stuff, same spiel, a little bit more pressing, but nothing out of the ordinary. Here you go. Same setup. There you go.
Break. Nice.
Good.
Very exciting. Break.
Good.
Face.
Good.
Face.
You just have to move along.
There you go. Oh, so good.
Do a couple more.
Break. Face. Face.
Mm-hmm. The other direction. There you go. Good.
Break.
Good. And last one. Oh. Try going this way, and then just pull. There we go.
Face.
Good.
You're so dramatic.
He's like, well, I might as well get comfortable.
I know.
There you go, right? Very good.
You're so
He's got
dramatic.
it growing while he does it.
Let's go to swap handlers.
Top one.
Yeah, the bumpy one. Yeah, that one's a 1 dog system.
Break.
Dog.
Place.
Good. Yep. Right. There we go. Jackson, wait a minute.
Excuse me.
Go ahead and just grab the handle real quick. And here's one tap. There you go. So I'll set them down, mark it, and you can drop again. The reason why I had you grab that was since he's already on the place, the tap was to get him to settle more, but I'm expecting confusion. Or you might think, yeah, so then we have that, so we're just a step ahead. Here with this guy, he failed his little test, right? You go into brain energy, he jumps up, we correct, and then we continue.
Break. Nope, can't go there. Nope. Mom can't save you now. Place.
You're trying to trick me.
Yes, I am. I'm trying to trick you.
Good. Good one.
Good job. Break. Place. Place.
Good. And we'll wait. Good. 2 more.
Break. Good, you have a corner out. Place.
Good.
Break.
And the next one.
Checks that I heard break.
And
Oh boy, Jack.
so you really.
Place.
Good. Tap. Good. And drop leash. And you can step away.
He was moaning at you.
I know. We have a board and train here who's from a rescue. And he has resource guarding issues and separation anxiety, real bad. And when we first, even now, like if we place him, like he was just like, like he really like, protests it, and it's cute, right?
Yeah.
But I'm telling everybody like, don't. I was like, I know it's cute, I get it,
Don't give in to him.
but yes, because he will play off of that.
Yeah.
Behaviorally, it like just makes things so hard.
Yeah.
So very good. 3 different energies, right? You have anxious energy, you have what I would call stable energy, and you have right in the middle, kind of impulsive, right? For like the jumping and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But because our numbers were set at the appropriate levels, it was pretty much just, literally just press of a button, okay? So this is a lot of conditioning, and a lot of remoting and being super generous with all this stuff. When we do the duration stuff, so I tell people like I'm the lazy man's dog trainer, because yes, we have training sessions to like teach the dog what to do and how this works and all that stuff. But going back to earlier when I said, as soon as the dog understands the concept of going to this place, then we're doing 2 hours right off the bat, right? Or whatever period of time. It's nothing really fancy, and it's something that people overlook a lot. Like they want it, but they always overlook it for whatever reason. And it's the one thing that I stress the most, is if I teach a dog to lay down, I'll tell the owner, we've taught the concept, the dog knows how to lay down with the remote. Keep doing those little exercises so that it gets easier and easier. But we can start duration right off the bat. And I'll tell them, when you're gonna watch Netflix for a couple hours, take your dog, call them up, leash them up, down them at your feet, and step on the leash, right? So if I'm sitting down, I'm limiting where the dog can move. So I'm watching TV, 45 minutes goes by, the dog goes, this is boring, I'm gonna get up now. I remote, they lay back down, I go back to watching the movie. 30 minutes later, repeat, until I decide we're done, break, and then we go off, right? And it's so easy to do, but a very small percentage of my clientele actually does it. And they always put it off because they're thinking, oh, well, it's so easy. I can always just do this another day. And then spring comes along, summer comes along, and they're like, I want to take my dog to a restaurant patio, right? They go, they haven't used it in the home. Then I'm getting emails, Jesse, I took my dog to the patio, they did terribly. Did you practice? Well, I taught them. Yeah, but did you do duration?
No.
Only 15 minutes once a week. That's very different than 2 hours at a restaurant, right? So when you get these guys back, this is something that you do want to practice on some regular basis. We go overboard because that's what you've paid us to do, right? So if I train the dog to 110%, I'm expecting when they get back, they're going to go down to 90%, 85%. But if I only train to 80%, then they're going to drop down to 55 or 60, right? It's going to be even lower than what it is. So we always shoot for more. And one way that we do this, so what allows us to train 4 to 5 dogs all at once throughout the day, is we just use tethers, right? So we have columns. And then we have a special leash that goes around the column that gives the dog about 4 feet of slack. And there's a placemat. And we place them, once we're done, we clip them, and then we go about our business. And the dog goes, oh, they're gone. I'm done. And now I'm 20 feet away. Boop, boop. They fix themselves, and I can be training Jack while Duncan's away, right? So, just to give you an idea of how we do this, right? It should be no leash, or it's going to be no leash. We just remote you self-correct, like you saw with Jack earlier, right? But in the beginning, because you're not trainers, I'm training you to know what they've been trained to do, and then you're developing these skills, right? Is, during this week, look at your home, look at your setup, and just think to yourself, like where could I put a leash tether? In the beginning, while I'm going to be learning and applying these things. We had a dog, Homer, who's here, he was a hound, and I remember when we'd always put him on Instagram, I was like, the owner's going to think we never do anything with this dog because he's always laying down on his bed, right? But the reason why we did that, he got all the same training as any other dog, is he was snapping and growling at the daughter. And the daughter was just a little toddler, wandering, like wobbling and stuff, right? And I told him, well, if you know you have the control to place Homer here and he's not going to move for 3 hours, it allows you to just worry about your daughter. Right. But if I don't have control of my daughter and I don't have control of my dog, we have 2 things to worry about, right? So we stress it a lot because I know if the dog can do 6 hours, 8 hours here at 2 hour intervals, blah, 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 going back home, the average person usually only needs about an hour to hour and a half, typically. But I know if I have someone that has a child, you know how it is having a baby, there's a lot of stuff going on. I want to have that control and not have to worry about, okay, what's the dog doing now? Well, I'm having to take care of all this other stuff, right? So when you go home, if you get a couch legs, table, whatever, and you're like, I could put like a leash here, grab it here, that gives me a tether, at least in the transference phase. Because I'm teaching you how to handle them. Then we got to transfer everything they know from us to you. So the one con of board and trains is your dogs are trained with us. Right?
Here.
Exactly. So then they know everything, but it's just transferring it to your home. That's one thing that you can do that'll make your life easier, okay? So just, when you go back, just kind of think like, where would I utilize this command itself? All now when they leave, expect them to know sit, down, stay, come, heel, place, and finish. And finish is come to heel position, okay? That's like the least used command. Most people just call their dog and go into heel, but we teach it just because it's nice. This is just a taste of what they know, getting you used to how the remote works, okay? The next time I see you guys, we're gonna be going over all the other stuff. And then I'm gonna be working on going to the long leash phase with you, which when you take them, you're gonna wanna get a 30-foot leash. I would suggest for each one of them, because when you take them out, it's not gonna be just, we take them off the leash, and it's no problem. Because if something, and it's actually happened with Jaeger's mom, where she called him, and he was like, nah, and he started running away from her. And I already knew, go step on the leash, start remoting, make him come back. She froze. She's like, what do I do here? Like, she did not know. And I told her, I'm really glad that happened, because this is real life. Remember, everything's associated to us. I'm transferring to you and educating you, right? That had this happen in real life, when you're by yourself and isolated, you've lost your dog, essentially. So we do the long leash phase, you're still going to the same stuff, it's just all the work's been done. All you gotta do is learn it and then apply it, okay? Questions?
No.
How are you feeling?
Good.
I like it, yeah.
Excellent.
For him to lay down like that that's great.
And these are all good guys, like these are all good pups.
Oh, he's a great dog, he just has a lot of energy, and he's puppy, so.
Yeah, and because when I get like my 2-month-old puppies and stuff, the I don't want to say excuse, but like the rationale is like, oh, it's a puppy, right? But the truth is, a mother will correct the puppies as young as 3 weeks. They'll start establishing boundaries. But the conception for most people is, oh, I get this 2-month-old puppy, they don't know any better. So and then puppies chew on things, and they pee on things, and they bark, and they jump, and they nip. And I go, yeah, they do, but you can teach them that it's not acceptable. They start to understand that concept of what they can and can't do very young. So even a 2-month-old puppy can be remote trained. It's a little bit more nuanced. And we can have dogs off leash or puppies off leash healing, by 2.5 weeks. And people are like, that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, but it's like, because we know how to use the tool. Again, we're not slamming them, right? It's all appropriate. But it's just psychologically for people, they're like, oh, but I would never put a remote on a puppy. I'm like, okay, just wait till they're 6 months, bring them back.
They'll train him?
We'll take care of it. Yeah. Okay.
Is he doing any nipping of people's clothes when?
No.
Okay.
No, we're not.
It's a mom thing.
Oh, she's nipping at your wife's?
When he sees her, he gets excited, he just kind of pulls on her clothes.
Yeah.
Just makes sound.
So what that is that's overstimulation.
Yeah.
So for dogs, when they feel an emotion, if you will, anxiety, nervousness, excitement, things like that, they typically express it through the mouth, right? Panting, salivating, barking, chewing, licking, biting, nipping, pulling at clothes. So the nipping at clothing is an overstimulation response, right? So the nipping or pulling at clothes isn't the problem. What's the problem?
It's his excitement.
Yes, because that's what's fueling it, right? So if a dog is fear aggressive, the aggression isn't the problem, it's the fear, right? So we look at the root cause. So there'd be 2 ways of addressing that. One would be, you got Jack, he's on his collar, mom comes home, he goes and he just thinks, I'm gonna do what I normally do. Boom. No, you're de-escalating him so that he doesn't get to that point, right? The other thing is just through the discipline and the structure of things here, and you apply that in the home, you may not even see it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It might go away on its own, but.
Yeah. That's a super common thing. I see it all the time, it's not all the time with puppies. When it comes to mom, right, and like addressing the stuff, the one drawback is so e-collar is unnatural. Dogs will always listen to what's natural first, okay? So I had a German Shepherd that I worked with my mentor, who the husband would groom him no problem. The wife would try to groom him, and he would growl at her and like nip at her and would not let her touch him. And she's like, how come he lets my husband, right? And she's like, and she's remoting him, and she was 100, she was blasting the dog. But when you watched her, she was always jumping back and moving away and shuddering when she would remote. Yeah. So her body language was saying, I'm not confident, even though remote was saying you should stop that. Yeah. So it's like in movies when someone has a gun, and they're shaking, and they're like, I know you're not going to pull the trigger. And the person's like, yeah, well, like, no, you're not, you're too scared, right? Look at how much you're shaking. It's the same kind of concept. So if mom is too reserved, right, we can use remote to kind of compensate, but we really do have to address that, right? Because it's going to be this steps forward, steps back kind of relationship, and that gets frustrating, okay? So it's not the dog doesn't know anything, it's just they're like, no, you're a softie,
I can do it, it's fine.
Exactly. Okay. Anything else? So I'm gonna take Duncan, Miguel place in the back, and then I'm gonna come back for Jack, okay?
Be a good boy.
Hey, you're taking
Mm.
You feel better now?
Yeah. Over here. Over here.
It's not really a competition, but I kind of feel like Jack's doing the best.
Rude.
Just saying.
Well, Shaw's messed up, he shouldn't be counted.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm just happy he's not biting anybody.
I wouldn't expect them to bite anybody unless they were trying to do something physical with them. Just putting a collar on them or just putting a leash on them, I wouldn't expect them to bite them for that.
This is always good.
Alrighty. Good. So one thing I didn't tap here. Whenever like grabbing the leash and stuff like that, you know, I always anticipate because the dog's shifting handlers are like, oh, I'm gonna be free.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a second, break it. Good. We will right back.
He's so fancy, I know.
That's so great. It's in my buttons. Oh, my camera's like my buttons.
Yeah, I think he's gonna do what we want him to do. Shaw, I know, Shaw, he'll never fix it completely, but I think he'll be better.
If I could just get him to like, I don't even care if he's cowering, just like go for a shot.
Yeah. Alright.
You know?
That's the longest training session. Questions, concerns?
No?
I don't think so.
So next week, we'll start to delve more into the other stuff that they know. And then we'll start, so next week, we'll teach, most likely go over the heel, the auto sits, a stay. By the following class, probably cover, review that, just since you guys are weekly, I always have people review, like, what do you remember, right? Because you're not handling them every day like we are.
Yeah.
And then we'll move on to the other commands and move on towards like the long leash stuff. And then you pick them up, the pickup of course is like a real long one.
Yeah.
Because it's like recapping everything,
Yeah.
how you're gonna start applying it. And then with the follow-ups in the home, you can schedule them at your convenience. Typically what I recommend for people is to give it time, at least a couple weeks, to see, because dogs regress always,
Yeah.
to some degree. If you're super strict and the answer is gonna be just raise the number, you're gonna be fine. But if there's anything that we're struggling with, a couple weeks gives you enough time to practice, see things that you're able to fix just from what you learned, and then things that you're probably struggling with. So this way, when we do the follow-up classes, you're getting more out of it, and it's not just like me showing up and things are still like in motion.
Yeah.
I want people to use them when things are getting a little rocky. And then they don't expire, so whenever you're ready. Like I got one gentleman I trained as German Shepherd way back when, like before in November. And he's like, no, things have been great. See you in the spring. I'm like, awesome, cool. I'll see you in the spring then. Okay. Anything else?
Nope,
think so.
sounds good.
Awesome.
We'll see you next week.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
If you guys need anything else, you let us know. I'll keep you posted on the eating habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.